And we're back. KTCR, Kill the Cat Radio. Just your friendly neighborhood cultural podcast talking. I'm Matthew Diabate, your host, keeping it curious. Because what killed the cat? Well, I'm going to let you guess. But this week, we've got a real deep dive for all of you. My guest is David Gagino, a dancer, filmmaker, and actor. New Jersey born, and now a 21-year resident of New York City. I met Dave like I meet most people, at a dive bar. In fact, it was one of the scariest and darkest dive bars of all of Williamsburg, Brooklyn. The now defunct Subway Bar. Have any of you heard about this place? Probably not. I didn't either. Until one day I was stumbling around Williamsburg in the early days trying to do my bar research. And I discovered this place just above the Lorimer stop on the L train. The joint was truly a hole in the wall and dark. Very dark. The regulars there did not appreciate the new hip classes that had landed in their neighborhood in the recent years. Oddly enough, though, they took me in, along with a slew of other outsiders, and Mr. Gagino was one of them. Friendly, insightful, and never scared of a conversation, Dave and I became fast comrades in the art fight. It's a true honor to have Dave as this week's guest on KTCR. We really jumped deep into the world of dance, which I have no idea about, gender identity, and the world of writing for yourself in these trying times. So here we go. Take it away, Dancing Dave. You're on the air. No, glottal behavior is like, you can actually hear. Here, put your earphones on. See if you can hear me and I can hear you. Yeah. Put in the get on the cans.
Oh, that sounds.
So it's like, can you hear me?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you hear yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the thing. So glottal behavior, you can actually hear the when people's throats get dry. They don't notice it, but if you're having this kind of thing and you're picking up on it, you can actually hear there's a little weird. So I always get people to drinking a lot of water.
Interesting.
During these things.
All right.
So this mic right here, this is kind of like a little different from this mic. This mic's like super crazy, so I have to like tone it down. This guy, just think like this. Think cone like that. So wherever you're comfortable, like if you're going to be there or wherever you want, just try to imagine like this. So this is where you're going to get the most. Yeah. Right. And you always want to give like a nice, maybe like 4 inches, 5 inches away. So if you're like over here and you're in the middle, you know, I mean, it's going to go off. But we're not trying to be too... yeah, you don't have to be right in there, but... let me go ahead and kill the...
I think my brother calls those mics the... what were they called? The pussy mics?
What is it?
The vibration. Like...
The which one?
You can get real low like
yeah,
that.
you can get low. You can get that.
Yeah, I think they're called the... Some pussy mic.
Oh, because of the vibrations?
Yeah.
So it's the love-making mic is what it is?
It is, yeah. It was funny. Because we've been doing a podcast over Zoom...
you have been doing that?
Yeah, it's just called Does It Suck Now? And we
Does It Suck Now?
Yeah.
You've been doing a podcast.
The podcast is called Does It Suck Now?
Does It Suck Now?
Yeah.
And you're on it, or are you part of
I'm on it, yeah.
So it's like it's your podcast?
No, actually what happened was our friend, who we shall call J-Bone.
Okay, we'll call him J-Bone. What's up, J-Bone? Shout out to J-Bone right here from KTCR over here, Kill the Cat Radio.
I think it's the Up in Your Ears podcast network that he's doing. And he started out with, I think, a sports thing talking about the Eagles. They're childhood friends. Like, so him, my other friend Josh Solo, we all grew up together.
Okay, cool. Where did you guys grow up together?
South Jersey.
Okay. Like all right. I always forget. Like, you're like, hey, you're right over the river. You know,
hoagies and cheesesteaks.
Yeah, right. Well, do you think they're still better than the Phillies? Like there's somebody, because people are, there's a war for that, right?
Yeah. Well, up here, what I always find is like, except for. What's that restaurant? I'm going to say Feodoro's, but it's not, or Federals or Federals.
No, right, those guys. That's Pittsburgh, right?
Wherever they're from, what they do is they import it.
Federoffs,
yeah.
It's all Pat LaFrieda meats.
But Scrapple, I don't know if you can get Scrapple in Pittsburgh.
What is that?
Scrapple is a meat, so it looks like it's like a mushy meatloaf. You use all the ends of the pig or whatever.
Right.
And it's like a Philly breakfast South Jersey thing where you grill it on each side so it browns, and then you put ketchup on it and you mash it up and you eat it, and it's I think it's delicious. Some people absolutely.
But you put it on the roll.
You can put it on a roll. I think they do like a scrapple egg thing. It was really funny the first time I went to that restaurant, and we got the cheesesteaks were actually really good
at Fedorov's. Yeah, so they do this. They do
it like straight up because they import everything from Philly. You can tell. Oh, and that's why they're expensive.
I love those guys. Yeah, they were friends of mine. Like over at the the Smorgasburg or whatever. When I was doing electric power over there.
Oh, really?
So I became friends with those guys because we were giving them most of their power for any of their stuff.
Oh, nice.
Even not for their grills or anything. So they'd always be like, "Hey guys," they'd be bringing over. That's like another reason why you can't lose weight. You can't lose weight dealing with like you're getting.
Oh God. I would say like I've lived in New York now for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And actually now 21.
Wow. I know. Oh wow, that's like, man, I didn't realize you were here for that long.
Yeah. Well, I spent what was it? So I came up in '99.
Yeah.
To do dance at Marymount, Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so the first 4 years were like college and whatnot. And so I came up and I lived with the 92nd Street Y dorms.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years at Marymount, and then I transferred to the Joffrey Ballet New School University, and I got into a major company my junior year.
Right.
Called Momix.
For ballet?
No, this was like... It's such a crazy story.
No, yeah.
Should I introduce myself?
Yeah, no, we'll get to that. Yeah, it's fine, because I usually do the introductions anyways, like on a separate essay thing. Yeah, you can say, hey, what's up? Whatever.
Hey, guys. My name is David Gagino, known to my old school cohorts in Brooklyn as Dancing Dave.
Dancing Dave.
And
in the house.
Just a nickname.
Today. See, I'll just edit that and then put that in the front, right? And then we'll just go right back over there. And then, so I got it all here. It's a master plan. I got it going here.
But yeah, like,
So what school? So wait, you went to Marymount, Manhattan, which is over. That's in the Upper East Side. That's
72nd
right.
Between.
Because they have a bunch of writers that go there.
Yeah,
too, right?
2nd and 3rd, I think, or second. I think between 2nd Avenue and I think it's between 2nd and 3rd.
I know some authors that came out of that school.
Because that Shakespeare and Company is up there, and Hunter College is up there.
Right, the New York version of Shakespeare and Company. Right. That's cool. Right, I got to get up there more.
Oh God, it's so hard to have a reason to go up there.
That's true, especially now.
Yeah, I know. I want to walk around and hang out with the old biddies.
I'll go see the Met. I'll go see the Met. You know what I mean? I'll go to the Met.
I mean that's a great reason to be in that neighborhood. Right. But yeah, so when I was younger, so when I was 5, we'll just start. I'll do the
short sure,
version.
Absolutely, yeah.
When I was 5, I saw Fred Astaire in Top Hat.
Right.
And he was throwing firecrackers out. And I liked the noises coming out of his feet.
Yeah, sure.
So my parents put me in tap dance like once a week.
Started with tap dance.
Started with that.
Right.
And
because of Fred Astaire.
Because of Fred Astaire, yeah. For some reason, there are certain weird things you do.
But he was a classy guy, though. I mean, like, even as a youth, you'd probably just be like, wow, this guy's great. I mean, he's got
and every time I saw tap dancing in the old movies, I think as a kid, rhythmically or whatever it is, you just kind of are like, that's so cool.
And it does sound like firework, kind of fire snap.
Yeah, and he had a whole routine where he was tapping and he would throw out the firework, ba ba ba, and then he would do another step, da da da. So, I'll go away from the cough.
We don't have a cough button yet. We haven't like graduated to the cough button.
I love coffee, but it dries me out a little bit.
Does it? That's why I hate the glottals, man. That's why we got the water. That's why you got the water. So that's why we go get the water. Everything here, we're good.
But yeah, so we
and no drugs, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing.
No drugs needed.
This is like the cleanest. This is the cleanest podcast episode that's ever been recorded for Kill the Cat Radio.
I'm sure. I'm just kidding. We don't do the rest. You know me. You know me long enough. I'm a pretty open book about.
Yeah, I know, but it's just funny because sometimes it depends on. That's why I started doing these podcasts like during the daytime. So a lot of my friends it kind of like cuts out the criminal element of my friendship groups because they're like, yo, let's do a podcast at 11 p.m. Like, nah, I'm in bed, bro. Like,
you're like, that's work.
Yeah, let's not, dude. Like, 11 p.m. I've tried those wasted podcasts before. Like, I'm not Joe Rogan. Like, this is, we fucked the whole thing up. It sounds like shit. I sound horrible. You sound horrible.
Well, a friend of mine too, actually my brother, he does a podcast he's sound designer and musician and all that sort of stuff. And so he does one for Aqualam. And the guy who runs that record company knows a lot of like old hardcore people. Yeah. Has like Ian McKay on.
Sure. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, like
what?
But a lot of times he sometimes doesn't know how to interview them, or they have a couple of drinks in.
Right.
And so after we were doing Does It Suck Now, my brother was like, no, it's great. Like you guys all really talk, and it's basically 4 childhood friends watching movies from the 80s and the 90s.
This goes back to what you were saying. So it's called Does It Suck Now?
Does It Suck Now? Yeah.
That's a great title.
And I'm just on it. Like, they're doing the editing, and that was fine with me because I'm like, I'm cool if there's one project that I can just have fun and I don't have to be in charge.
That sounds fun. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Did you just talk about 80s and 90s movies?
Yeah, we just did Willow.
Yo, bring me on this thing. I want to get on the thing. I'm a movie nerd. I would love that stuff.
We just do a Zoom thing because one of the guys is in Maryland, one's in South Jersey. My brother's traveling a bit now. He's working with Ghost Adventures doing sound, and he's done that for years.
Oh, wow, cool. Your brother's in sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So he knows all your trials and tribulations.
Oh, so he knows exactly what's going on with all
these things. He tried to get me to use that on one of my
This is amazing. No,
shoots.
these are the best. These are great we're talking about the Zoom Handy. This is a Zoom Handy 4. The 6 is the best.
Is it?
But we had to, because it's just got more outputs or inputs. So you can go crazy with it. But this is like, that. But these are great for even filmmaking and all. This is great stuff.
Well, last time he was trying to get me, and I love crew people.
Yeah.
Because they make everything sound so fucking simple.
Right? Doesn't it? They're like, yeah, just do that. You're like, do what?
Yeah,
Decibel where?
No, man, look where the clap is. Like, you're just lining this up. And you're like,
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I'm like, pot of beret, motherfucker. I don't know what you mean.
Right.
So over it last summer, I had written a mockumentary. Actually, I think I sent
that
to
you said, yeah.
And I was just like, didn't really have much money. Was like, but we had a good camera.
Yeah.
Talented people.
Yeah.
I said, let's just create some excerpts and go have some fun.
Yeah.
And he was trying to get me to use that Zoom thing on the last
What'd you
day.
end up using on the thing?
It was
a
lav mic.
But then it went into
camera.
what? It went in camera. Mm-hmm. In camera, brother. It's dangerous.
Yeah,
that's some shaky business. You get the... That's all it is.
I would check it, but it was hard because I was directing and basically doing the crew.
You should have called me up, dude.
Well,
I love helping people out. Like, jumping out. You don't have to pay me. Like, I'll just be there.
Well, between like you and I met another guy, Stephen Lewis, and a couple other people, like as I'm starting to come up and do more projects, it's much like the way it happened with dance later in my career with putting projects together. Like,
sure.
As long as you're not taking up a massive amount of someone's time.
Right. Don't waste anyone's time.
Exactly.
If you're not going to pay them or whatever, or not going to, have that thing, never waste anyone's time. That's like classic.
And this was like,
rule.
We had a studio. This is pre-COVID, people.
Pre-COVID, guys.
We had a studio up at the Upper West Side JCC. I work there, and they're
What's JCC? What's that?
Jewish Community Center.
Okay, so like they'll let you rent out spaces for.
They'll let you rent it out, but also I'm a part-time substitute teacher there, so I'm an employee, and they're extremely generous, and I've always really appreciated with. Supporting their staff and everybody.
Of course,
So I would get the dance studio so I could make it look like we were interviewing in the dance studio, and as long as nobody was renting it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's all these little, New York. You live here long enough.
Yeah, you gotta find these small little things. That's all it is, like little angles.
And so he tried to get me to use that, and I was like, it's too complicated. But now, post COVID, I know Premiere Pro. I've done a bunch of different things.
Oh,
and
wow.
Now I'm like, okay, I know how to line all this stuff up.
I will sit you down. If you don't know anything how to work, I will sit you down in a half hour after some beers. You'll be like an expert at this thing.
Oh, that would. Yeah.
I mean, there's like this too. It's too complicated, and I just kind of like, okay, what's the easiest way of handling this? So I don't gotta sweat it. I know these are very complicated pieces of machinery, but once you know exactly, like, okay. That's a decibel level. Okay, this needs to be turned down. What is it going to be like? Like, what's the background sound?
I could check the levels with the lav mic into the camera.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I'll send you it after we leave. But I'll show you I'll send you all 3 mini episodes we did, and it's kind of me experimenting.
Did you put any of this stuff online, or It's still okay. So
all 3 episodes of
the mockumentary. Which is called
The Academy.
Okay, great.
And it's a mockumentary about my days at like Joffrey, at the different ballet schools, and just the absolute craziest teachers you meet.
Yeah.
And this.
So Joffrey's out of the new school.
Yeah, so...
And you went from Marymount, Manhattan to Joffrey.
Yeah, so basically I was a hip-hop head kind of growing up.
Right.
And so, but still doing theater.
Sure.
Still doing sports, all this stuff. And then as the 90s hit, and I'll admit I'm 39, so...
Sure.
You can put that wherever you want.
Hey, it's okay. I'm 43. It's all right.
It's all right. We're getting there.
You're not past the bit. You're not over the hump yet. You still have the 3 in front of your age.
But yeah, it was interesting when I was about 12. I was doing just local dance schools and still doing sports and all this other sort of stuff. And then I was at a competition dance school.
Yeah.
they didn't put my name. So they had 3. If you don't know what a competition dance school is, it's basically a dance school that goes to as many different competition dance things, like watch Dance Moms, although I don't think it's a great example.
Dance Moms on what? It's on TV or something?
Yeah, Dance Moms, I think it was on Lifetime or A&E.
That's if you want to learn how to, like, what these dance competitions are.
Yeah.
These competitions.
Years ago, they were created as a way for jazz dancers to kind of prove who had the best studio. Then people started coming to them, and now they're like an exorbitant big way of how you make money. And you're either a competition studio, a ballet studio, a recreational studio, which means the kids aren't really that good. You're just there to have fun.
Okay, and people actually pay to get it? They pay to get into these things?
It's like a dance sport is what competition dance is.
Okay.
So basically, you will assign for a certain amount of classes. If you want to be in the competition company, you have to audition.
Right.
Then studios will do the costumes, and they'll put an extra fee on top of the costumes so that the studio makes some money.
Okay.
Then they'll go to wherever,
right.
Long Island, Pittsburgh, whatever, and Star Quest or Star, it's always beyond.
And it's all connected, so like everybody kind of knows like where they're going to be coming from. So if you come out of this, Star Quest knows.
It depends on who's big.
Okay.
And a lot of these competitions, like cheerleading competitions, because they're not sanctioned, and I only learned this from Penn and Teller's bullshit.
Okay.
This is great.
Anyway, you can get the knowledge these days.
Oh, yeah.
You can learn. Always be learning. Okay, like come on.
They were doing one on cheerleading,
right.
And it related exactly to competition dance, where they were saying it's not a sanctioned sport by whatever the United States or however they sanction a sport. So they can have multiple national competitions. You also don't have to be. I don't know if it's changed a lot by now, but at the time I was listening to this, it was like, you can't have more than one national. That's not a national competition.
No, because then there's too many other things going on.
So each of these competitions has their own national.
So they're just making this shit up as they go along, basically.
And some of them are basically there, and what the kids get out of it is a team sport. I'll say the positive things before the negative.
Yeah, right. Let's always stay positive. Then we'll hit the criticism. Then we'll hit
they get like a team feeling. They're active, they're really heavy into dance, and they get to perform more than they would if, like, say you work at a ballet studio, right? Ballet studios, they'll do, like, Nutcracker is a big money maker for them in December.
Yeah.
Then they have their, end of the year recital show.
Yeah.
And then maybe they'll have a summer show, maybe not, depends on the place. So this is a way that once competition season starts, the parents have to pay for the travel. Right. Parents have to pay for everything else, wherever they're going, whatever they need.
So just break out the checkbooks.
Oh, it's incredible. My friend works for David Sanders out in Long Island, and I give him so much credit. He has his own competition, 5 different studios.
Jeez. And he's running the whole show.
He is. And he's so interesting because he really wanted to be on Broadway. So right. But he never had that chance. But he's like this genius business person for what he built out there.
Well, at least he's helping people. He's making some money, and he's pushing dance forward, at least,
Yeah, well, and it's just fascinating too as to like what you did or didn't accomplish in your career and how you feel about that and what comes out of it. And
I'm sure we'll all be asking ourselves that eventually.
I think we're always asking ourselves that question. But yeah, but anyway.
So wait, did you come out of? You came out of one of these things? Is that?
I did it for a year.
Okay.
My cousin, Amy Gugino, who I will give a shout out to her daughter.
Amy, what's happening?
Yeah, she passed away a while ago.
Oh, okay, well.
But her daughter Bella, who's very interested in musical theater, who talks to me But she did this dance thing, didn't ever do it professionally, and they recommended the school to my parents. Yeah. It was called Jazz Unlimited. Okay. Because you can never have too much jazz.
You can never have too much jazz.
It's got to be unlimited.
That's it. It's got to be unlimited.
Just fingers.
Boom. All day long. Strength those digits.
Yeah, and they did the same thing. They apparently put me in the petite ensemble because I was about 11, 12.
Yeah, well, say how old were you when this was all going on? They start them young, so.
And my mom,
you went from tap dancing into this Jazz Unlimited.
It was like we were tap dancing. Then there was a school locally called DeMarco. I mean, welcome to South Jersey, people. Right. Okay. DeMarco Dance Studio. A lot of Italians. Hey. And they were a small family in the town, and so I wouldn't even say I trained there. I just kind of went there. Yeah. And then, because nobody knew, I was young, like, he's still taking tap, but he likes theater, and
But you're going to school, you're going to regular school too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to public school,
normal childhood.
So you're going regular, but did you get a lot of shit from the other guys because of the dancing thing? Because, like, that's...
No,
I can just see like the Jersey kids just being the evilest kids that ever. I mean, I'm from Rhode Island, so it's pretty much similar kind of
Northeast
thing.
is
like
very
if I told
Northeast.
somebody I'm going to dance class, they'd be like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? You know what I'm saying? Like maybe nowadays they're more accepted. You get any flack for this? Kind of stuff
didn't because
from other kids.
We were lucky. Merchantville is 3.5 square miles, but it's like Jersey jam packed next to other towns. So we had a K through 8.
Right.
And so I went from kindergarten to 8th grade with 50 kids.
Okay, so there weren't. Because I'm thinking just the meanness of children is just
we all knew each
unbearable.
other, and people thought it was cool. I don't actually remember when they didn't discover that I tap danced.
Because we know it's cool.
Yeah.
Because you're around all women basically all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that, right? So I'll be like, well, that guy's smart, obviously, because he's, he's hanging out over here. You're in a sweaty, football locker room with other dudes. Like, come on, what's going on here?
Well, by 12, though, too, I was doing the soccer team. I was.
Oh, so you were just an athlete across the board.
Yeah. They didn't
See,
really
that's why you
dance.
got respect, because you were doing all the different stuff.
And skating.
Yeah.
We were super heavy into skateboarding.
See, that's what I'm saying. So, like, you had all the marks, and they couldn't fuck with you.
And I kept trying to find hip hop stuff. At that point, I was really fascinated with breakdancing. And if anybody knows about the early 90s.
And we're from the same generation, because I remember when that came out, we were like the only white kids breakdancing. Right?
You couldn't find it. It was so hard to find, I'd say, like, 1990. I mean, not until you get into, like, America's, next breakdancing crew.
Yeah, that's it.
Did it get out there?
Yeah.
But
you
had
the
to
suburbs,
go,
I mean, you were close enough to New York City, So
I was, and it was close enough to Philly.
Yeah.
So after this thing where I was at this dance studio, and at the end of the year, everyone has a picture, and I'm in the petite ensemble picture, and I keep looking at it, and I'm 12. Of course, you're weirdly obsessed with this.
Of course.
And my name's not there, and I know it's alphabetical, and I'm going, and I'm starting to get upset.
Yeah.
I'm tough, but I'm sensitive.
Right, of course. Artists, man. We're artists.
And I remember I just had a breakdown, and my dad said to me, he's like, "Do you want to be on the stage?"
Right.
He said, and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, we're done with this mamby-pamby, dance shit. We're taking
no
you to
more of
Philly."
this.
So I ended up at the Walnut Street Theater for a class, and they had these auditions. I met this guy, Ricardo Martin, and he was amazing. But first day we showed up, I wasn't really a singer at that time or anything, and we're standing at this classroom, and he's this beautiful, wonderful gay black man, and he's going, "Well, he can't audition."
Right.
He didn't audition. He's not allowed in this class.
Of course, right. You need
and
to
I'm
be...
standing there. I'm holding like a dance bag. I don't
You're
know.
like,
This is like a musical theater
This
class.
is in Philly, right? You're just like, what's going on? You're 12.
And I'm like, "Oh, we should just go, Dad." Like...
Almost early defeat for Dave.
And so my dad, my mom looked like Diane Keaton.
Okay.
Irish.
Cool.
And my dad looked like a much better looking Joe Pesci.
All right. Okay.
He's half Calabrese, half Sicilian.
All right. Okay. So he's got the mix.
Yeah.
Got the mix.
But nicest guy. You'd look at him and you might think he might, but he's
might
just
be a
like,
tough
"Hey,
guy.
I'm Tom Gagino. It's good to meet you." Like,
Tom.
"Oh, yeah, I did
What's up,
comedy."
Tom?
Yeah. So, and we can get back to that. That's the other interesting thing. But yeah, basically, Ricardo said if he comes into this class and he sings right now.
So wait, because it was a performance arts class, basically.
It was like a musical theater.
It was like a multimedia kind
And the
of
Walnut
place,
Street Theater, which is pretty big in Philly,
right.
they had these classes. And so I went in, I think I sang, Bare Necessities.
Okay, I don't know this song. How does it go?
From the Jungle Book. And so I went...
Wait, why don't I... Wait. How does it go again? Wait.
You know it.
Come on, I know it, because come on, give me a little bit of it.
It said, "Look for the bare necessities and something out of necessities."
Something like
And
this.
something from the worries of your life.
I'm sure
Yeah,
people were
man.
We're like, dude, come on, guys. Like, you should know more than this. We grew up in America.
I know, right?
I gotta kill this thing.
Oh, no problem.
Stupid fucking... New York City always full of noise. That's all it is.
But I will say...
Okay, so bare necessities.
Yeah.
Wait, that's what you did?
And Ricardo was great because he didn't...
Did you nail it, though? Like, did you... It doesn't seem like you have a bad voice. It doesn't seem like you have a bad voice.
I think I was still very timid, but he saw that I could, sing on pitch and on key.
That's all pretty much you gotta... Yeah. Pitch, key, timing. That's it,
And so he let me in the class, and then a couple classes later, he said, "There's this audition for a company that I'm running. It's called the Rainbow Company.
Yeah.
You can sing and you can rap
Whoa!
for this." And this is 92, 93.
That's crazy. That's
And I was like,
it's a whole different thing.
Because I didn't want to sing if I didn't have to. And so, I was into hip hop, my own hip hop dance.
But
stuff.
wait. So, but how did you even get into hip hop in the beginning? Because if you're just a South Jersey kid, It's 1992. This is not,
Oh, sorry. Wow.
No, it's fine. Whatever. I'm telling you, man. Do you use filters? He's rolling cigarettes. You rolling with the filters?
Yeah, I'll roll one if you want.
I don't know why. No, it's fine. I can roll. I roll too.
Everyone keeps looking at the little. I have a plastic Ziploc bag I keep my filters in.
Oh, so they're thinking these are like
every time I pull it out, they think it's crack rock.
It looks like rock. It looks like rock. I mean,
I had somebody the other night
rock.
and said I thought that bag would be a lot more fun than it is. And I was like, it's not cocaine, guys.
It's actually for safety, for the singing, for future singing voice. But no, how did hip hop come along? Because I remember how it came along for me, but like. It was so random, though. I mean,
it was like we were like so.
92. I mean,
my brother was getting heavy into.
Yeah, an older brother.
I had an older brother.
Okay, that's what it is.
Mike Gagino.
So, and that's where it came.
And I have a younger sister, Allie Gagino, Alexandria, and so we shared a room, and he was getting into like all the watch High Fidelity if you don't get this, guys.
Yeah.
But like record shops, he was getting into hardcore. He was getting into punk, like as well as hip hop, because they were very like.
Well, punk and hip hop kind of merged a little bit.
Yeah, especially in the early '90s, I think, because once Nirvana comes out and once like the death of pop, you have for about a good until like Britney Spears, everybody was just hearing gangster rap and
before gangster rap, it was like almost kind of progressive rap, like the Digital Planets vibe, the Roots vibe, Jurassic 5 vibe.
Oh yeah,
a lot of this kind of conscious hip hop was coming out, and then gangster rap just took it over.
Oh yeah, well definitely once the Chronic hit.
Yeah, basically.
Once
it was Dre. Literally. It was Dre's day for real.
I mean, that's kind of how it started, and it was bleeding over too into us reading like Thrasher magazine and looking like Gigi Allen. I saw a picture of him, and I think it was right around the time he died, and I was just terrified.
Yeah, he's scary.
Oh, it was like. Ooh. And so hip hop was always kind of bleeding in, and I always liked it. And I always liked like house music and different types of electronic, and I wanted to flip around. And that's like third grade. I started.
And plus the dancing thing too, just the movement of hip hop. That's an entire thing. Because like punk, it's kind of it's just whatever. It's flailing in the mosh pits, what have you. But the hip hop thing, they had the movement, the beats. Plus, you got these like great videos, all ladies doing their thing. Like it just was I could see how it all ties into that.
And I always loved moving, and I always like, as my parents said, they were always like, you love throwing your body around.
Right.
So I would see.
Could have been a stunt guy too. Like I would think.
Well, actually, that came to the Prism, but we'll get to that later. Okay. But yeah, I mean,
nice.
It was like one of those things that and I was like, well, karate. We never did it, but we looked into it and. I think what happened was by the time I was 12 and like I said, doing the skateboarding thing and liking the culture, I always liked, they called him Little Stevie at the time, but we would get like Eastern Exposure videos and stuff out of Philly. And Stevie Williams was one of my favorite skaters. He was just a little black kid at the time, and he would have his hat backwards. And I just liked the whole culture.
The look, the culture.
And this was also
so much to it at the time.
During this time too, which in our very... politically correct. And you know what? It was also getting politically correct in the 90s. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you talk to people our age, we're like, didn't we already go through this already? Didn't we have this happen already?
Yeah.
We thought this was solved in 93.
But the word wigger was thrown around a lot.
Oh, they didn't like that, because if you're a white guy trying to get in there, but who was throwing it around? It wasn't from black kids.
It was from black kids? Older. No, it was older
white kids.
It was older white kids.
What's the deal?
Because we're 10 minutes from Philly. Right. And growing up, it was like... you had like the punk rock skate part of it, but then you had the hip hop stuff that was starting to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I remember this. Yes.
And it wasn't accepted, and so this Rainbow Company. Sorry.
And this is a great. No, it's okay. We'll just edit it out. So you're just saying like, let's go to this Rainbow.
Well, the Rainbow Company thing was fascinating because even being in a mainly white suburb, and we had some diversity. What the whole concept of the company was to bring inner city kids with suburban kids, and we did hip hop operas,
which sounds great. I
mean, we did a whole
screw
thing.
You, Hamilton. This shit was already going on.
I know. Ed Shockley, shout out to him, because he wrote this show called Bobos, and it was about a kid who gets in with a gang because he's got no name sneakers and he's trying to figure it out, and so that was the first 2 years of that. And what was great is. I was just like the little white kid who could dance, and I met Rennie Harris out of that, who's still around, and he's had great success. He had has a company called Pure Movement, and I think he's one of the, if not one, resident choreographer over at Alvin Ailey now.
Wow!
But he was like an OG. So immediately when I met him, and we went to go see a show of his, 12 years old. So I met him at the audition. I get into the company. we start rehearsing, and after every rehearsal, I'm like the excited little white boy.
Yeah,
like, let me show you this thing I can do.
Yeah,
I got this thing. I'm doing a little thing, and he would always indulge me in such a great way, and he'd go, "Oh yeah, man."
And this is your teenagers. You're getting like 13, 14, 15?
Yeah, well, this is just the first year. This is 12.
Oh, this is 12. So you were already just very rambunctious already.
Well, he was the access.
Yeah.
And at that time, it's not YouTube. It's nothing. Like, you had to go to the hip-hop shop and buy
you had to get
breakdancing
there.
video. Yeah, or you had to go to the shop and buy the skate video. It was not being
Well, now
shown.
we're just showing our age. We're like, you got to go to this place. It's like analog all day long. You got to memorize the phone numbers of your boss. Make sure you got your mom's number on it.
Oh, yeah. Tell them when you're leaving.
Payphones.
Yeah. Where are you? I
Where's
can pick you up.
Pagers came out. It was awesome.
Collect call when you couldn't get in touch with them.
Collect calls with people. Go to the hip hop shops. You got to go to you got to get your trucks right on your skateboards. You got to go down to the skate shop.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Do you need a lighter? Do you need a lighter for that? Or you got a lighter?
I got it.
You got one?
I just haven't lit it yet.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't sure if you needed one because I got all the accoutrements right here.
I haven't actually smoked inside in such a while, so I think. Yeah,
see, we I mean, I don't like my roommate was smoking a lot of cigarettes in here, and it was fine. But I remember I left it. Sorry, side point, whatever. But this is one of the. Can I roll one of these? Do you mind?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Now I'm all like getting into it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I don't use those things. Even though I probably should, right? Oh man, these are. Oh, cool! The Amsterdam Shags.
It's my favorite.
I haven't seen these guys in a while. All right, so keep going. So like you're over there, you're 12 years old. You're like showing, you're trying to like annoy your older peers.
Well,
right?
he was the choreographer.
Yeah,
so Rennie
he was the main guy, so he's ready to rock.
Yeah, and so we would, eventually I started taking class with him in Philly at least like once or twice a week, and it's an open class, and what that means is. It goes on whether people are there or not, and people drop in, drop out. It's not like you sign up for the year and you have.
Is there times for these things, or just like?
Yeah, like if you go to Steps on Broadway, where I taught for 15 years or something like that.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and in their kids program, they set up the structure for the kids. They have a weekly thing. They pay semester. But when you have an open class, it just runs every Friday that you're there, and whoever can show up and pay for the class.
Thanks, man.
Pays for the class.
Okay,
you know what I mean? So that was what open class meant. And throughout those years, I would constantly be like, how do you do a head slide? How do you do a thing? And so I was pretty heavy into...
What's a head slide? Jesus.
Exactly what it sounds like.
So is that when
top
you go...
of your head, like, it's like you slide from like 6 feet forward on the top of your head, like you're in a head... Like, think of a head spin, except you're just sliding on your head forward.
Are you using your hands when you're doing this?
You have to use your hands. Start, and then you let your hands glide across the floor.
Oh, my God.
I mean, literally, you need a good surface, or you're going to feel it.
Jesus.
And that
you got to stay light on your feet. You got to stay light. You got to stay fit.
It was one of my tricks, was because I couldn't really head spin when I would battle, so I would do a head slide and then do, like, 2 head spins out of it and then, like, fall on my back. It's, like, the end move.
Okay.
You'd be like, got you.
Gotcha. Nailed it. Mic drop, but drop the body at.
Yeah, and all that was all happening. So within those 2 years... I started going to underage clubs with a lot of negotiation with my parents because I was like, Rennie would teach me a trick every week, and I'd come back, and by the time I was 16, I started getting really good. But when I was 14, I was like, Rennie says I need to go to the club and battle.
But what club, though? What are we talking about here?
Any
12-year-olds going to...
And a lot of these clubs at the time, I don't know if they still do it, they had an all-ages night.
What?
So the all ages night would be great. I was about 14 when this happened.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, it's got to be a little bit, I get nervous around,
and
thinking liability. And
the first time I went, it was terrifying. My parents took me. I didn't care because I really just wanted to go and have that experience. I was still very much a skate kid. And so they walk in, and my dad always tells the story. He's like, we checked with the bouncer and the security, and they say they keep an eye out for you, and we'll be back at 11. It was about 8 o'clock, and so he also walked in, and it was like, teenage girls in little white shorts up on the bars. Yeah. There's no alcohol.
No, that's what I was going to say. I was like, yeah.
But you could smoke. That was the ironic part.
That's kind of what you can smoke around the children.
Yeah, that was when the whole place was full of sweat and smoke.
God,
and I got into my first battle with these 2 Puerto Rican guys. I was terrified, and I only really had one good move at that time. It was like handstand, front roll, boom. But
what would you win for these battles, though?
I was just respect.
Yeah,
attention.
That was it. Okay, so 14-year-old Dave over here.
And the guy didn't even do a trick back to me. He did this sort of like riding horsey thing, which you'll see in many hip-hop thing. Jumped up, grabbed the back of my neck, and stuffed my face into his crotch.
Jesus, that's not a very nice move at all.
That was his diss. And everyone went,
that's called fighting terms. That's like, I don't know.
Oh, I shriveled. I went, and I left.
You do, yeah. That's like, oh man, that's like.
But then I said I was going to be the best one there, and then by the time I was 16, 17, I was.
No kidding. So basically, come 16, 17, you're.
Yeah, I would
battling.
be skating, and then I hurt my ankle.
This is in Philly.
Yeah, this was. There were clubs in South Jersey.
Okay.
And then once I could drive, I started going to. So the first club was Iguanas, which was on Route 70, and I think it's still there. It's like called Taylor's or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would go there. And usually it was only when you had off on a Monday because underage night was like Sunday.
Okay.
Then, when I could drive, I started going to 17 to 24 nights at like Egypt and Shampoo and a lot of the clubs around Philly. And, really always you came in all your gear and all this stuff. And
what was the style? What were you wearing at that time though? Like, was it truly like, were you just emulating the hip hop style at the time? I mean, like.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
So if we saw pictures of you back in those days,
I was like
straight
a Guido,
out the baggy pants.
I was straight up like Guido hip hop because I liked part of my Italian culture. Of course. So I still had like a gold chain and like rings.
You got chain. I had a chain. Wow.
And I had
Guido
2
hip
rings.
That's a new one right there.
Yeah. And so it was funny. Yeah, I mean, you would find me in high school. Definitely, I had a Tommy Hilfiger sweater on.
Had to have the
camos.
Have to have the camos.
And I didn't have this type of hat yet. I think that happened when I got older. I couldn't find one. But like you'd have the knit, like, army brim cap.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. All right.
Oh yeah, Tim's. But I didn't like Tim's because you couldn't really dance in them.
Right.
So I used to always go for shell toes because you could kind of go up like hip hop point, shall we say, not to insult any of my dance friends.
Right. Okay.
You could go up on your toe.
Right.
But, it was, and I bought full into it. But it was also like Rennie taught me about soul and feeling the music and house dancing at the time and really getting into a trance. And
because house was coming up at this point too. This is house another, that's because like, the hip hop and then right around the early 90s and then it was coming in the mid 90s was huge. House music, all stuff coming out of London.
Yeah, and house was, and this was like Frankie Knuckles, like all that Chicago stuff was what I heard from the OGs that I would take class with. So like, it's so funny because I don't know half the artists because you would just get it on a mixtape.
Right, of course.
But Follow Me was a big song. Follow me, follow me. And it just had a great, like, you'll hear it around Williamsburg. Yeah. Someone's going to play it.
Somebody's playing it.
And stuff like that. And then you'd hear all the Guido house, that was coming out.
Okay.
And in my opinion, I always said the best house music was either black or gay.
Right. Basically, that's it. Yeah, that's all you got. That's all. That's it.
Soul.
Yeah, right? I mean, at least it was moving, Yeah. I mean, it was happening.
And so, yeah, we had it was really fun. But then I was still doing school plays, sports. If I was on the gymnastics team.
Theater as well,
yeah? Yeah, I would do the school play. So what? I did it my freshman year when I was at an Italian prep school in South Jersey my freshman year, but didn't have much arts. So my parents took me out and put me into like an old money liberal high school that was actually much more accepting of artists, and they had dance instead of gym.
Right. So your parents were very supportive of all this.
Oh yeah. Well, they were stand-up comedians.
Oh, okay. Well, so all right. So you're coming from a performer background, so obviously stage is not going to be something that's too foreign for you.
It was always supported, and we always grew up with like this education in comedy that I use a lot now that I'm writing more and directing and whatnot, because that's what we talked about. We know who Sid Caesar is, and Buster Keaton, and the list goes on. I mean, my dad showed me the Ritz brothers, which were like the contemporaries of the Marx brothers, and movies, constant movies all the time. We go to the movies every Sunday, and we had to talk about the movies, and we had to talk about. So they were always kind of pushing. What do you understand about it? What did you like about the story? What didn't you?
That's so great to have parents that actually were accepting of some kind of artist of of their child. It's.
Oh yeah.
So many people don't even have that. I mean,
that was the biggest guilt I had when I came to New York.
It was guilt? What do you mean guilt? Because you had all that background?
Yeah, well, the minute I got to New York and you're around all these dancers, and that first overwhelming experience of like...
At Marymount.
Yeah, at Marymount. Yeah, but everybody in the dance, and everyone's got dreams, and you're 18, 19, and then you start to get to know everyone, and they're like, your family's like perfect. And I was like, are they?
Right.
I used to say,
because you don't know, because like it's insulated, it's like a family, and you know what you're used to.
I felt like, Oh God, we actually had a good childhood.
Yeah. So you felt bad. You felt bad that you had a good childhood.
Well, in the beginning, it made me feel like I had to be the priest for everybody because I had something good. So, early on too, we all hook onto tropes that later on you're like, why was I doing that? But I was
I've got a million of them. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Or I'm going to change.
I think I still do a little bit too. Sometimes.
Make you see the light. And so I always kind of felt this guilt at first, and so more fucked up friends would become my friends because I was always this emotional rock because I talked to my mom every day. You know, we had these open lines where I could be emotionally
open and
and I was like I could dump my emotional stuff on my mom
and you wouldn't be judged, basically.
and then never.
Because that's one of the things that, I think a lot of the youngsters, especially coming in the arts, they're always like, okay, we're going to be judged by our peers.
Yeah.
If they're not in art school, they're going to be judged by their parents, or,
why
are you doing this? That's always the biggest one, right? It's always like, why are you getting involved in this? There's no money in it. What are you going to do? And maybe there isn't any money in it, but that's fine. But at least it was like a fulfillment, a soul fulfillment, But how do you get into new school from the Marymount area? Because now it's like no more battle. I mean, you're still doing hip-hop, but you're learning all different kinds of dance now.
About 2 weeks into... being in New York, we walked into a clothing store somewhere, and I was still all in my hip hop gear.
Right.
And I automatically
Guido Hood. I just love that. I just love that idea. Just that's so funny.
I'll try to find an old picture.
Yeah, that would be really great. We should put that one up on the. Yeah.
But I remember walking in, and there was this weird feeling that this woman was not taking me seriously being in the store because of the way I was dressed.
Okay, good. Wait. What store was it? And then you were dressed in that style.
It was a nice clothing store somewhere.
Okay, nice clothing store.
It was nice,
all right,
yeah.
Okay.
And immediately in my mind, I was like, well, I'm up here and I'm training. Now I'm learning technique. I'm, have modern ballet class all the time, and you're training 24/7. So it was two thoughts. I wanted to be taken seriously, and I also wanted to show off the body that I was building.
Right, because you're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. So about Christmas time, my parents came up and I said, can we do shopping in New York instead of in Jersey? And bought a bunch of new clothes and kind of developed into a different look.
What was the look then? Now what you're moving into?
Slender, button-down shirts.
Okay, right.
Wanted to be able to just show off everything you were building and
because it is like a physical.
Girls.
I mean, the girls thing, right? I mean, that's. I was about to say, I was like, that's gonna come anyways. Like that's like part of the whole thing. Like women, they meet a male dancer, like, well, he's probably gonna be fit. You know what I mean? That's not a worry that they're gonna.
Well, and to answer your question, through high school and all that stuff, because I was breakdancing and because I had rougher looking friends, shall we say.
Yeah, no one's going to fuck with you.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the beauty of it. That's because you're thinking dance, you're thinking this is a feat, kind of movement.
And even when I started doing other stuff that was a little more ballet or a little more modern, I'd have jocks being like, Dave, I just think what you're doing is really cool.
Yeah, right. So then they finally come around.
Yeah.
That's when they come around. They see the physicality of it. They see your friends.
Also, I didn't have a feminine...
right.
And I think that's so tough, and I know so many stories of friends of my own that I wasn't gay.
Right.
And I kind of figured that one out pretty quickly in college.
Right.
And a guy, it was so funny because once you're in that college atmosphere and everybody's young, your bodies are all fit.
Everybody's experimenting.
You're free.
Right. You're free to do what you wish. It's wild days. New York City.
Gay guys were more aggressive with me.
Of course. They're still aggressive with me. And I'm like, aren't I obviously straight and out of shape? Like, what do you like me for? Like,
hey, man.
Dude, like, what's going on?
Is that your thumb? Is that your thumb in my butt? What are we...
It's like, Jesus, what's going on here? Why do you like me at 43? Like, what's that deal?
He's just like,
What is this? Dad bod? Is the dad bod hot? Is that what's going on?
Well, my best friend who is gay, every time I tell him this gay guy hit on me, and he's like, that's because every gay man's a slut, David.
Right, so
don't feel good about yourself, okay?
Yeah, right. Right. Just don't think you're special.
Yeah, you're...
Come on.
But yeah, I mean, I thought about it like sophomore year. I remember very vividly going like, could I make out with another guy?
Right, of course. And it's the 90s too. You got to remember, this is something that this generation, our generation,
we're like
we're going through. We're like open. We're open about this.
Yeah.
And
it was funny to be like, yeah, I could. But then I thought about it and I'm like, once clothes come off,
then it's a different story.
Do you get hard? Do you feel
like are you attracted to this guy?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's like a really good litmus test.
Does it turn you on?
Right.
And in my opinion is whatever turns you on, go do it.
Of course,
Have fun
right.
with that.
Hedonism at all costs, in my opinion.
Yeah. Once that, I realized I was like, oh, you're not gay.
Yeah, you're like, well, it's an easy fix, you know.
Well, people try to make it so complicated sometimes, and I'm like, to me, that's just the core of how you feel. Yeah. Now, if you came from a bad family, if you weren't accepted, if you were abused,
well, that's even more.
That's
and then that's a whole thing you gotta unpack there. But like you were like, hey, I'm here, I'm open, I'm interested in these things. These ladies, I love them because the ladies also look as good in the dance.
Absolutely.
That's also something you don't have to worry about if you think about it.
Well, who doesn't want to be? If you are a sensitive, artistic person,
right?
You get put in a place where you're with beautiful, women.
Yes.
And they like you even more for being sensitive.
For being in the,
and
you're not a
being
dick.
Who you are
right.
and nice and getting rid of that whole trope from high school of like the asshole always gets the cheerleader.
Of course.
I went, oh, I like this.
Yeah, you're like, this is fine by me. That's interesting that you got to explore even like that idea of sexuality, and that's something that we don't. And I've told people too, like I remember kissing guys because girls wanted me to, right? They're like, go make out, you guys should make out. And I'm like, fuck, I don't really want to do this at all. But I like, I love the attention. This is cool. And it was like very, and it was like, I was getting into Bowie, so like that kind of like pansexual idea was going on. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And every time I was there, I was like, this cool, like, like kiss. But it was this male energy.
It's different.
And but it made me understand my gay friends more because like, oh, that's what you're not getting from the girls.
Yeah.
Because I don't mind dominant women or women who are tougher or tomboys or any of that stuff because I always was attracted to like riot girls and girls who skateboarded and all that stuff, and they were in like punk rock bands and all this. So I was like, I dug that. But then right when I was around the male energy, I was like, oh, yeah, that's something. But then you realize then, but it made me understand my gay friends more what they were not getting from.
Yeah, and I think for anybody
from the women,
who may even listen to this or whatever, like. Yeah. Take your time and figure out what you are attracted to. Because once I knew
you'll know.
Exactly. And once I knew that.
Yeah, once you know.
I was the friendliest. They called me gay friendly.
Yeah.
Because I would go to gay clubs constantly with my friends. And it would be tough, and you can hug and you can,
whatever.
Give me a kiss on, I'm fine. Like, I don't care. Like, because I know at the end of the day, it doesn't turn me on.
Right.
So as long as you're not too aggressive.
Right. That's what gets a little bit...
to address.
Yeah, that's sometimes an issue.
I'm like, excuse me.
I had that when I was here in New York City. That was well, I worked at the Abbey, too, so the Abbey was pretty much everybody bar. It wasn't a gay bar, but it was everybody bar.
Oh, yeah.
So there was plenty of, like, late drunken nights there where the aggressive gentleman would be a little too forward. I'm like, dude, I don't have to fucking punch you in the nose here because I know that's going to look real bad out here. And,
my best friend used to do this thing... And Ryan Jackson, I love you. I hope that, but he would do this thing where he'd be like, all right, just give me a kiss. And I'd kiss him with my mouth closed and he'd just stick his tongue in my mouth. And I go, oh, but he'd laugh so hard about it. He'd be like, gotcha.
This is funny.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, he used to be on tour into our 20s and he wouldn't have a place in New York. So he would come and stay with me and we'd sleep in the same bed together and we'd cuddle. And years ago, there was a reality show that I was, it's called Your Mama Don't Dance.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard of this one.
Nobody has, really.
Yeah, okay.
So they tried to do it as this dance competition between like East and West Coast dancers.
Yeah.
They really liked me. I had the hip hop background, but at that time I had still ballet. I had like a big mixture
modern
of
dance
things, that I could
soul,
do.
Jazz,
tap.
I mean, you're
couldn't tap anymore.
Oh, really? When did the tap
it.
ending?
Basically, when I got into hip hop.
You can't tap right now. That was the second part of the interview was going to be. Tap there. That's about it, right?
Shuffle,
These wood floors. Yeah, that's it. Shuffle, step, shuffle. There you go. All right. See, we got a little bit going here.
But yeah, no, I kind of dropped it when I was doing a lot of hip hop, and then it was interesting. Before I was looking at Fordham, and we didn't know anything.
Right.
So we went up, and they had the Alvin Ailey program, which they still have
at Fordham University. Beautiful school, beautiful campus. Right.
And the woman we interviewed with was like, he has to start taking ballet.
Like that? Like this is when you were at the new school or before
This is
new
before
school?
I got to college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was like
you have to go into ballet for what reason?
16, 17. I had to go into ballet because it's the building block of every other dance technique.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. So that's the formation of the tree of dance is ballet.
And you don't have to be great at it, but to understand certain technical things in modern in jazz, although they all have their different things,
right,
the structure is still centered out of ballet.
Oh, I didn't know this. And ballet's kind of more of the Western tradition, or like is that like where does in the history of dance? Because you must have studied that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, well ballet's what 500 years old. I want to say it started in the mid 1400s. The first ballet, and literally, you guys, if anybody, if I have this wrong, please.
No, of course, yeah. I'm sure they'll write in. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, everyone.
We don't have a comment section over here. That's on purpose.
But I remember I had a dance history thing, and it wasn't in college. It was I was at the American Ballet Theater's one of their summer programs in Austin, Texas, and we had a little elective where we came in, and so basically one of the Catherines of France did what they called the first official ballet. Yeah. It was 5 hours long. Wow. It had dance, but it had poetry and it had singing.
That's what I'm thinking. It had to be mixed elements.
Totally. And then it started to slowly grow. I would say then in my history knowledge, like you pick up into like the Romantic era, but now it's like gone from France to Italy. Right. And you have Taglioni, who was the first woman who really got up on point or was famous for it.
So it started in France.
That's pretty much what I remember.
Not a surprise to me.
It pretty much went France, Italy, and then turn of the century is where you get what you see in Russia, like your Swan Lake. Well, yeah, Swan Lake is, and that's all Maurice Petipa. So Petipa is what we call classical, just like you would with music. Sure. So Petipa was Nutcracker, right? Swan Lake.
And these are the Russians.
Yeah,
right.
And he would choreograph on a chessboard because he had to make 5-hour ballets at the time for the court. Right. So that's why you see circles, diagonals, how things would move. Yeah. And it's so unique to classical ballet that you don't see.
I wouldn't even make the connection with the chessboard. That's so.
Someone told me that. I mean, that's what you pick up too from different dance teachers over time, and basically once you get into post World War I and Dadaism, that affected dance too.
Right, Dada's the breakdown of all kinds of structures that were coming before, and so they wanted to deconstruct all that stuff, just like they were doing in all the arts.
Exactly, and you had the Rite of Spring, which I think it was Fokine, but one of these guys, Diaghilev, was another person who brought all these artists together and had a company that then spawns Balanchine, and then that you get all the way to like New York City Ballet that way. But they did the first one-act ballet called The Rite of Spring. Okay. And Stravinsky writes it, and it is, if you ever go and listen to it, it is the first time you're just atonal, switching measures, switching this. It's just and we did like a 5-minute excerpt of it at one of these programs I was at, and so the French hated it so much that they rioted in 1919. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense to me. They're always up to something over there. I was pissed. I lived over there. They're striking every day. They're probably striking now about something.
But and that was a lot of. So when that happened, I started taking ballet at Philadelphia. It was like an adult class, and I had enough skill to get into Marymount, and then the journey, in my opinion, really started where I was like, oh shit, I'm not halfway as good as these kids at this.
Oh, so then you started seeing that. Now you're around like the top of the top.
Well, you're around competition. You're around people who've been taking jazz, ballet, whatever, all their lives, and they are technical dancers.
And I could just see you coming from this kind of like hip hop background, with the South Jersey and the whole thing, and that sounds like an interesting little mix.
It had its pros and cons. Yeah, right. But I definitely bought into the whole dance thing and was very committed. It felt like, your identity as to who you're going to be as a performer. And my parents were always like, we didn't know if you're going to be an actor. My mom always thought I was going to be a director. Cut to now. Well, I mean, you still could be an actor. I mean, you still look 27. No, seriously, he looks 27. All right, I'm just saying, like, I don't care how old you think he is, all right, or how old he says he is. I look good on podcasts.
Right, he looks good. He's got a face for radio, just like me, buddy. So now you're on all this competition, but then what does that transfer into the new school? Because that's like, now we're talking like this is...
Yeah, well, what happened was, when you're in your little cocoon of whatever suburb you're at, and this is just for everybody, right? I got to New York, and I knew a little bit about the dance world from Philly, but not a lot. Yeah. When I got to New York, all the stuff that I was taught in Philly, I was like, oh, that's like a smaller place. Right. And I don't want to be like, oh, they're small-time companies, but... at the time, that was kind of what it was, because suddenly you get to New York and you're like, dance companies? I need to be in a dance company?
Yeah, like, wait a minute.
And they're like, you don't know who Paul Taylor is? You don't know who Ramon is? Yeah, you're going... So the first day we were there...
teach me!
I know. my
I'm here to learn!
Me and Mr. Ryan Jackson are walking around and we get this orientation from a sophomore, this guy, Kurt, and Kurt was just this, like, he would name drop, tell you how important he was. He'll tell you. He'll tell you. Yeah.
Okay.
Just ask him.
Yeah.
And I went to the Joffrey this summer, and it sounded so like...
Joffrey, yeah. It's like, man,
I went to the Joffrey Ballet this summer. And so
like,
my friend and I both auditioned. He got put in a higher level. I got put with the 9-year-olds. That's where my technique level was.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
That's a shock to the system. You're like, oh, boy, here we go.
Oh, God. And I was 19, and the first day I go in for class, and it's like watching everybody at the ballet bar who's like a foot shorter than me.
Right.
And I marched in. Mrs. DiDario ran the Joffrey School in New York. So just quick thing. Robert Joffrey founded the Joffrey Ballet. It's still on 6th Ave, the building across from Public Library, and I think it was 6th Ave and 10th Street.
Yeah.
And they fell into some financial problems.
Uh-oh.
They had to move the company. So the school and the company were two different things.
Yeah.
They moved the company to Chicago, and rumor has it they weren't like allowed back to New York for like 10 years.
What was the thing? Just because of financial stuff? I mean, you don't have to go into it, but like...
I think it was just debt.
Well, it's expensive to run things around here.
I think they just ran up debt. Like with people. So the company leaves. They start in Chicago. The school stays. And this woman who had her kids like trained there a little bit, weren't professionals, started working in the office, and her name was Mrs. DiDario. And she was the bulldog or the front office. So when Robert Joffrey, I think he died of AIDS, unfortunately, early 90s, you know, he left the school to her.
So Mrs. DiDario takes it over, right?
And she was just so funny. So I walk into her office. She's an older Jewish lady.
Yeah.
And she goes, David, what's the matter?
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be in training level 3. My best friend is there. Like, I can't be with these kids.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll do anything.
Yeah, of course.
She went, oh, okay. All right. Well, you let me know if it's too hard for you. Okay?
Right.
You come back and tell me. And in my mind, I was like, I don't care if I don't know a fucking step.
Yeah.
So I spent the rest of the
summer.
You're
getting in.
It was an 8-week program every day, man.
Wow.
And you danced 5-6 hours a day. And those first, like, 5.5 years of my training was like that, because I felt like I needed to do this. And so that's when I applied for Joffrey. I got in. They mixed me up with another boy who had hip-hop training. So they told me I was in, and they told me I was out.
Oh, no. Jesus.
I was like,
tug of war. This is tug of war here.
And at this time, too, you know, whatever age you are and wherever you are, you look up to these mentors that you have. So the teachers, oh, my God, abusive mother figures, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but you're just sucking it all in.
Yeah,
you're
sure.
Like, tell me I'm good.
Yeah, of course. You need to accept. But then you worked hard. You started moving through it. How long is this program? Like, what is this program?
That was a college program. So basically, they stopped that in 2003, and I was the last graduating class.
Nice.
And so basically, I did 2 years at Marymount, and then I did 2 years with the Joffrey. And when I first got into Joffrey, among other things, 9/11 happened.
Okay, right. Again.
We all have, that could be a whole podcast.
Right.
And then I was like, I love my mentality. I was like, fuck the terrorists. I'm going to dance.
I'm going to dance my way through this terrorism.
And bullshit. I'd worked so hard to get here.
Yeah, you're not going to be taken down.
You guys.
See, there's the New York spirit right there. That's that's how you know it. It's like, you know what, terrorism, COVID, go fuck yourself.
So like you ride the train and I'm like, blow me up, motherfucker.
Yeah, kill me. I'm going to dance. I'm going to die dancing.
So yeah, I got in and I got a half scholarship, and most female dancers will tell you, because yes, I was a boy. I had some talent, but I was really behind technically as a classical ballet dancer.
Right.
And I worked my ass off, but I got into Momix, which was, so Momix and Pilopolis are two big dance companies still around, and they were founded by athletes in Connecticut. And they, you know, Pilopolis makes all these weird body shapes. You ever see like the shadow thing that was on, I think, like America's Got Talent? It's like that, but they'll also do live stuff and just mess with your mind. Yeah. So the founder, one of the founders, started his own for-profit company. So Pilopolis was nonprofit. Got funding that way. And then he had Momix, which was...
Momix was the for-profit. Okay,
right.
perfect.
And it was everything Pilopolis did, but we did it on props. So we would have sticks. We would have...
wow.
I did a piece called The Swimmer where we would spray liquid silicone on a piece of like matte marley, and you put it in a down spot. So then... And it was gray.
Yeah.
So on stage, it just looked like part of the stage.
Sure.
And you wear these nylon socks, and you would swim...
It's okay. Sorry.
You would swim standing up. So it looked like you were at the bottom of the pool watching someone breaststroke over top of you.
Oh, wait a minute. This kind of reminds me of that strange, what was it, just strange things that they were doing, like the actors were like all in water above the audience.
Oh, the Fruta Bruta.
Yes,
yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's something similar to that. So it's
audition
like,
for that one.
Really, you did?
Oh, yeah. Please.
Because once you get out of school, then you gotta start. Yeah. Then you gotta start making some money.
Well, Momix, they were like, you can take credit, college credit.
Okay.
And Joffrey was very supportive.
But they're not paying for you to do any of these things. Like, what does a dancer to do?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
The company does pay you.
But let's be honest, they're a top-notch company.
Yeah.
I'm 20, do my first performance by 21.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid $100 a day.
Yeah.
And then you get per diem, and they were all like, well, that's kind of how you make your money.
Right.
And that was like the first inkling, especially to my dad, who had done, comedy and freelance work and had a production company, where he was like, that's how much you're going to get paid?
Yeah.
And he never said, don't do dance. Right. He was just always knew, like, freelance is freelance. So figure out how to get paid.
Of course.
And so I did it for a year. I had great experience and was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
I had a bully partner woman and I was just young. I didn't know.
Yeah, of course not.
It's like an abusive relationship. You don't know to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, right. And you're not going to, and you don't know anything about money at the time. I mean, like, you want to get paid, but you're like, how much do I get? How do I even make
my parents were still help. I mean, my rent was nothing.
Yeah.
It was like $500 a month, but I would pay it, and then they would pay it. And we didn't have a lot of money, but we had enough that they could support in the beginning years.
Where were you living at this time? You weren't living in Manhattan. Were you?
Yeah.
Oh, you were in Manhattan. Okay.
By that time, I was at 33 Gold Street. So 9/11 happened, and they had dorms. That was the beginning of that year, and that was the beginning of Momix, too. And I was in a dorm at John and Water, or John and Maiden.
So you're downtown. Like that's...
Yeah, we were 5 blocks away.
Jesus.
I remember calling, and the phone lines went out. And
Wait, you were 5 blocks away from 9/11?
Well, 5, 6. Yeah, it's by the Federal Reserve.
Oh, my God. That's so scary.
And I'm looking out the window, and remember, I got up.
It's like the apocalypse out there.
You know it. Nobody had any idea. I got up, I was going to go to pot of dill class, which is partnering class.
Yeah.
And I'm calling them, and I'm like, there's some buildings on fire.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to try to get to class. I don't know.
And you're sitting there, oh, my God, what a scary,
it was just like, we didn't know anything was really wrong until the first building fell and all that dust.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The whole place looked like the apocalypse.
Right? It was insane. But yeah, so I was there, and so I lived in those dorms, and then we moved around the corner because after 9/11,
of course,
it was so $2,000 was a dualplex 2-floor apartment with a rooftop deck, and it was a shitty building, but it was still in the financial district.
Sure, of course.
It was on Fulton Street, or right off of Fulton Street.
Yeah,
and it was fun, though. I had a friend of mine from high school moved up for a year, so we shared this top open space.
Sure.
Then another couple I knew shared the downstairs space, and I ended up in that apartment for like 8 years with finally like people that were consistent.
And this is what people do. This is how New Yorkers live. You have to. You've got to always have roommates. People even adults will have roommates.
Mm-hmm.
You got to live. You got to learn to live amongst each other without any murder to go on. You want some more coffee? You doing all right?
Oh, I'm all right. This is good.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
These days, as I get older, sometimes I get too much of a zip.
Oh, okay,
Do you
cool.
ever get that?
No, because I'm so dulled by the alcohol abuse that
But yeah,
it's dulled me to such a degree that really nothing affects me unless it's hardcore.
I mean, it was crazy too because right after that we did our first performance for Momix, and it was a New Year's Eve concert in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
We learned this thing called Sputnik, and I think you can look it up online. But it was this huge sculpture that had 3 prongs in it, so it was like the Sputnik satellite turned upside down.
Okay.
So the poles would stick out, and it sat in a little bowl, so it would rotate.
Oh wow!
And it was a couple on each pole, and then a woman sat in the middle. And you would just do all this crazy shit on it, balancing each other.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So this is like a gymnast kind of stuff too.
Oh, totally. That's why it lent. Wow. That's why I got hired, because they loved my breakdancing.
Right.
I had some footage that I made for a girl. Of this breakdance competition. It was in AC that my brother taped, and I was at the peak of like getting technically trained, but my breakdancing after so many years
Yeah.
as a teenager was really there. And then I was getting flexible and was like about 20 years old.
Oh, yeah. So now you got that added bonus. So now it's like
yeah.
you're just cool. You're just
The
cool.
footage is online.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, where can we find this?
You can go to my YouTube page.
Yeah, what's your YouTube page? Come on, let's get
Just
some.
type in David Guggino, and it's Guggino, and the whole page should come up, and you'll see. I think I just put David Gagino breakdancing.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
and you'll see skate
I'm looking
videos.
at this. When we're out of here, I'm going to check this out. I'm checking it.
So
that got you a lot of. So you're doing Sputnik. Are you traveling with this now? Like
this is the first time, and we had to wait
cool.
5 hours because it was a New Year's Eve thing with Shirley MacLaine and Michael Feinstein. And I'd just been watching Turning Point. I got into Joffrey. I was really getting into ballet at the time, and I went up to her and I said, "Miss MacLaine, like," and I'm cute.
You met Shirley MacLaine. Holy
yeah,
moly.
oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, and so. I said, I just got into Joffrey, and I want to let you know that Turning Point, and actually as a dance movie, people, if you want to see an actually good dance movie, it's Baryshnikov, Shirley MacLaine, Anne Bancroft, Leslie Brown when she was young.
It's not Fame, it's not Footloose.
Yeah, no, it's not the...
It's not Flashdance.
It's not Step Up.
Step Up.
Step Up and Take It.
Step Up and Take It. Flashdance.
Yeah. But yeah, it was I because Baryshnikov's parts, I used to watch his variations in Giselle to kind of like try to get different moves. The same thing that you did with hip hop or skating.
Sure, of course.
I would start watching all the ballet tricks, and I said to her, I watched Turning Point and it inspires me, and just thank you so much for doing that. And she went, "You're so sweet. What's your name?" And I was like, "David." She's like, "David. All right, we're gonna take care of you."
What?
I don't think she
In
ever
what
did.
way? What is the thing?
I don't know.
You're like, what does it mean?
And her dog was Terry the Terrier.
All right, so she must have loved her.
And in the middle of the show, they lost the leash.
Oh no! What?
And it was hilarious to watch her like entourage just being like, "We have to find the collar. We have to where is that?"
Oh my god!
But I fell off the Sputnik my first performance.
Oh no!
I was
Live?
oh yeah, so nervous.
Did you injure yourself? I mean, that's just like
no, thank God. Yeah. So my abusive partner, who at this point I don't know, I could probably blast her.
Whoa.
Hey.
I think there's a delivery or something like this. Jesus Christ, what's going on here? This is like the most aggressive Amazon guy. All right, let me check this out. Sorry,
oh my
David.
God. Go ahead.
Right
We'll be right back. 2, 1. Killed Cat Radio.
How did you even make ends meet when you're out? Suddenly now you're just a performer. You have this great background in education, but then where do you go from there? Do you teach? Do you perform? I mean, how are you making your money to survive like in the mid-20s?
Absolutely,
and the 30s?
But the end note to that story.
Oh yeah. Sorry, no, yeah, sorry.
But so there's this part in the piece where the two other couples are behind us, and we have one pole. So think of like an erection or whatever, because it was very phallic.
Got it.
So we're on this one pole, and it's supposed to come up and kind of stand straight. So the other two like pull down, and I'm facing the floor, and then my partner gets on my back. It's hard to describe, and she puts her head in the middle of my back. So we're like opposite.
Yeah.
And then she holds on to me. We go up, and the big reveal is like I take my arms off, and then we do a whole thing together. So I'm so nervous at this point that we start to go up, and we're kind of starting to rock. Yeah. It's just a pole that I'm holding on to with my legs.
Yeah, well, say, it doesn't sound like a lot of support going on here.
And she whispers in my ear, she goes, because we used to talk a lot on stage, all of us. And it would be like, and she went, "You better hold on, motherfucker."
It's like, you drop me, it's over.
And I said, "I can't." And so the lighting guy is watching this happen.
Oh, no.
And he's going, "So we're on the pole, we're falling off the pole. Oh, no. All falling, and we're off the pole."
Wait, how far of a fall is this?
It wasn't that far.
Yeah, well, the say is like you can't injure yourself. Your body is your instrument.
It's like if you went and held on to just, go to like a tether pole and, put it on put on its side, and you held it like this and you rolled over on it. That's how we felt.
Okay.
And so she just, once it wasn't happening, she got off my back, starts dancing, and he goes, and Jossie is dancing over there. Dave has not left the pole. I'm looking at everyone. I'm in hot pants, of course.
Yeah.
And they're going, get on the fucking pole. Get on the fucking pole, Dave. Get back on the fucking pole. And
this is in front of a crowd.
Oh, it was 5,000 people there.
Jesus Christ.
I'm like, get back on the pole. Finish the dance.
Yeah.
The director comes up to me and he goes, and he, not a great communicative guy. We ended up getting along finally, but he was like, so what happened up there? And I said, and I'm 21.
Yeah.
I'm like, my first performance with a major company. And he goes, and I go, I don't know. And he goes, well, we'll get back on the horse tomorrow.
Right.
And he left. So my dad was there, and he told me stories of them performing. He said they did 3 shows. So my parents were improv sketch comedy team in the 70s.
Wow.
So they would get up on stage and they would do sketches as well as suggestions from the crowd, but they always could kind of shape it back to what they were doing. And they played the Blue Room here in New York, and I think it was the first audience could come back to the last show.
Yeah.
So they did 3 shows that night, and by the time they get to the last show and the audience had already seen their first act, they had their C material, and he said for 15 minutes nobody laughed.
Whoa.
And so he was telling me that story while we're at dinner.
Yeah.
And
to make you feel better, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
This is like,
absolutely.
Come on, this is stage failure. And nobody knows failure on stage more than performers.
Oh, yeah.
That silence, it's the murder when you in front of people.
This is the worst.
That's the best way to build confidence. It's like, oh my lord.
Oh, totally. And the next day, everyone had a different prop dance, whatever they did. Everyone started telling me stories, because once you have a prop on stage, something is always bound to go wrong, no matter how good you are at it. And there was this girl from Queens named Janelle, and she's from Canarsie. She's fucking Canarsie Queens.
Canarsie kid, come on.
And she goes, she had this 5-minute solo where all she did was turn, and she had a disco ball with a string on it, but it looked like she was somehow controlling this ball. And she goes, I was on a fucking race stage in fucking Greece. She's like, the goddamn string broke. I was playing soccer with it for like 5 fucking minutes, like running up and down the stage, just kicking the ball around. And then she told me another story with the same piece where she got hit in the face by one of these steel poles. Adrenaline going. Same part that I had at that point. I didn't never partner with her doing it. But she comes up and looks at her partner, and this guy's trying to do the dance. And he goes, girl, you bleeding.
Oh, no, what?
And she had to leave after they got done the piece, got 5 stitches in her upper eye.
Oh, shit, she was bleeding from the head.
Yeah, came back, did the second show.
See, and that's performance.
Yeah.
That's dedication right there. That's how you know.
Yeah. But back to what you were saying. Yeah, I got out of school and then...
Because now it's like it hits, boom, like now it's like,
I left the company after a year.
How do you make money?
They were asking me to come back, but it just wasn't the dance I wanted to do. I wanted to be on stage, not hidden, not in an illusion.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do more ballet at that time.
Yeah.
So I started working for this woman, Susanna Stankovic. I know, great name.
Hey, it is.
And it was very like, we were just trying to figure it out. It wasn't even a company really. Like, it would be me and her at these sort of like Perry Dance would have a night of choreographers and we'd do a piece. So I was working for her and kind of figuring out what I was going to do next. And right. So then we were guest dancing a little bit. So if you don't know ballet world, if you're a guy, come Nutcracker time, there are Nutcrackers all over the country.
Right, it's happening.
Right, and they don't have partners for their girls because usually they don't have a lot of guys.
Right.
So the main parts, New York, whatever, they hire professionals to come out and you get a nice $2,500 check, something like that. So I did my second Nutcracker. I did 2 of them.
Wow.
The first one I did was for actually a place I'm still teaching at up in Ossining. But that was a way to get an $800.
Where's this place that you're still teaching at?
Ossining, New York.
Ossining?
La Brea Dance Academy. They've been there for like 35 years.
And you're still teaching there?
I am.
To this day?
Tuesdays. And I applied to something on LinkedIn like 3 years ago, and I was like, you were my first Nutcracker. And I came up and I teach jazz and one ballet class up there. But that's like my side job now. I'm trying to get away from so much teaching.
Right.
And make the 2-prong attack of having DTG Productions as...
And that's your own production.
It is my own production company, yeah.
I looked it up, LLC. You're legit. I checked it out.
We did that, yeah.
You're on an open... It's like opencorporate.com. You're up.
Oh, really?
You're good to go.
Awesome. I didn't even know I was on there.
Yeah, you're legit.
Helps to have an accountant.
Yeah, that does help.
That's why you pay him $475 to do it so that everything is in order.
Everything's legit.
Done.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that came about because, I was doing slam bam dance. So I'll go to the years, but I'll cut back to that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so basically, I was bouncing around. I was gigging. I did an extra year as a trainee at Joffrey. So the college program ends.
Right.
And they always have a trainee program there. So I basically got to go for free. I wanted to train for an extra year. My dad was like, no, just get out and audition. And I was like, no, I need this year.
Right.
And what my dad always respected was I said, I don't give a fuck if I have to waiter.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And he went, no. Like,
yeah,
after,
it's going to be fine.
Yeah, no, but I get it. So I went and I did a year and I started really improving. And then I did the Joffrey Ensemble for about 6 months. And
these are paid gigs? Or no,
the ensemble was paid.
Right.
But from the trainee stuff, other teachers there would get gigs all over the country. So one of the first gigs I did for this guy, Elie Lazar, who was the director of the ensemble, which is like their little professional performing group that they have at the school, was Romeo and Juliet at the Roanoke Opera place. And he picked this guy, Brian Waney. Hi, Brian, if you ever hear this.
What's up, Brian? How you doing, man?
And he picked him as Romeo at first because the concept was they were going to do the opera and then they were going to have these alter egos as dancers. So you'd have dancer Romeo, singer Romeo, so forth and so on. Then kind of halfway through the process, he went, I think he was Israeli. He was like, I think I'm going to make David Romeo. And wow. Brian was like, really?
He was mad about it. That's like, yeah.
It's going to make, because Dave is more manly or whatever. Right. And it was funny because Ellie was gay too.
You're doing Romeo and Juliet? You're doing like a...
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So we did, we didn't do the ballet. So we went down Roanoke and... It was funny. Ellie was very intimidating. He would just yell at you constantly. What are you doing? What are you doing? He frees you. And so we went down and did the gig, and he left for a couple of days. And when he came back, I got very comfortable with my Brazilian partner, and we were working really well together. So we did like 3 duets. I also played Mercutio as part of it. Yeah, and I played a monk. They kind of just used this as this other... My friend Ibrahim, who's still in New York, he played Tybalt. He's very aggressive Venezuelan. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But we had real swords. And so we were fighting.
Oh my God.
I'd be like, dude, you need to relax.
Yeah, you can't be like aggressive when you're dealing with serious steel here. That's too much. That's wild.
So that was one of the first gigs, and I got paid for that. And so then that summer I did the ensemble, and we did performances. So they would book... a week or 2 weeks at different studios throughout the South. For some reason, that was like Ellie's connections were all down south.
Like Roanoke, Virginia, you're saying?
Well, Roanoke, we didn't do Roanoke again, but we did like Andalusia, Alabama.
All right.
Greenville, North Carolina.
But this is like you getting to travel.
Carolina.
This is getting to go out of New York City and the coastal region.
Well, and that's where most of the business is, unfortunately, when it comes to ballet.
Wow. The
ballet business, if you're a freelancer or unless you're not hooked up with an actual... real deal company that's going to give you a year-long contract, like the business isn't here in New York.
Well, that's my question is like, so like, do you have managers? Do you have people who like go out and get the gigs for you? Like,
no, not in the ballet world.
You're freelance. You'd be a freelance ballet dancer. You'd have to go out and score your own gigs.
Absolutely.
Okay. So like when people even hearing this who even want to get into this kind of field, like you're on your own. There's no agents for writers, managers for musicians.
For ballet, specifically ballet.
Okay.
Right? And the scene in New York, if it's still like this, maybe it changed.
Yeah.
If you're not getting hooked up into American Ballet Theater or somehow into New York City Ballet, or even something like Complexions, which is contemporary ballet, but they're seasonal, they're not all year. There are very few companies left in New York City where you can make a living as a ballet dancer consistently. So you would do B companies, as I would call them. So I do Nutcracker for Glevsky Ballet out in Long Island. Like you try to make like an extra $5,000-$6,000 by popping around and doing Nutcrackers.
Because now that you're like so educated and so skilled in what you're doing, you're at the height of your powers. Like you have to go around and hustle everything up yourself.
Absolutely. I didn't get an agent until I was about 26.
So there are agents then.
There are, but not for ballet dancers.
Okay. But for other styles.
I mean, for musical theater, for commercial dance. Yeah, you have agents for that.
And do you have one now? I mean, you got people now? All right, so you're unrepresented, guys.
Someone picked me up.
Someone help this guy, man. He's got a background. He's got a serious background here.
Well, what happened was, too, is Yeah, I went to Montreal during that year, and I did this thing called the Professional Project. And
Great city. That's
I love Montreal.
Town.
If I had another place to move to,
that's
beyond
great.
it being freezing,
Right, the winters. Okay,
but the culture and
the vibe, people are so friendly. That's not a joke.
Saw it was like a whole artistic town.
It really is. I mean, even the homeless people are super sweet. Like they're really nice about the way they ask for change. I was really surprised when I was up there. Like,
okay,
the myth is real. Like this is true.
Oh, I loved it. And it was 3 weeks during the summer.
Yeah.
And the whole basis of that program was to put you with different dance companies and to help you as a concert dance. Concert dancers don't have agents either. You go to auditions for companies.
Okay, because I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. Concert is like ballet companies. Like they do concerts.
Sure.
So, or you're like Alvin Ailey.
Yeah.
And it's just dance.
Right.
Like you are in that company and we call it concert dance. Commercial and theater. So theater's what you would think of it. And you still have to be able to sing. And then commercial would be, it's actually an old industry term in general, like to do an industrial, but people still in the dance world call that, but that's like corporate gigs, commercials.
Yeah, well, to say like the commercial where like, seeing these dancers on commercials, between, during ads, I mean, that's where they find these dancers here.
Sometimes, and I know some people, my cousin does advertising and she does know something about dance, but we asked her, we're like, why are there such shitty dancers in its commercials?
Right.
And then she's like, well, you have people casting who, first of all, the client wants this.
Right.
Then you have people in the ad agency who don't know what professional dancers look like.
Yeah.
And what they're supposed to really be.
And you get the money people, they have no clue.
Right. They go, no, I love the blonde. She can't do do anything.
Right. So I like the way she looks. She's a good looking lady. Can't dance with her. Can't dance.
And the best example of this is there's an Instagram page called Ballet and Models, and it's these shoots they did where they're putting models who are not ballet dancers in.
They look great.
Oh, but their legs and they're on point. But it's like,
right.
And every dancer who ever looks at it's like, oh,
how are you doing this? Right?
Why?
What is?
So yeah, concert dance in Montreal was good because that really opened me up. I had a private audition for Cirque.
Right.
And so I went up.
Wow, because that's got to be the high point right there. I mean, that's
it was 3 weeks of just not sleeping, dancing full time, going out into their version of the Village on Church Street.
Okay.
It was a blast, but you pushed yourself hard. It was like Cirque auditions you for 8 hours.
Yeah.
It is a long.
Wow, that's the audition? Is it 8 hours?
Oh yeah, every time I've done it.
What?
And it was for the Beatles show at the time, Love.
Yeah.
And so
I saw that one. I think did they do it over at Randall's Island?
Did they?
Have this? Or they did.
It's in Vegas, but they probably.
I don't know if it was that one, but I saw one that was on Randall's Island. I'm not sure exactly what.
I don't know.
I think it was like the insect one. I don't know. There's so many of them. There was one where I think it was like insects and something.
Arachnophobia.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah, that version. It was on Randall's Island. It was pretty cool though. I have to say, seeing my first Cirque was like, wow.
I was so ballet obsessed at the time that it was really hard to get into the contemporary because I had just really gotten out of Joffrey and was kind of finding myself as a dancer, and they were extremely controlling as to how you did classical, which really doesn't lend to being a good dancer.
Yeah.
So I'm there, we do the audition, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah.
At the end, they ask you because they don't know what they need. They're like, does anybody have any special skills? And I was like, oh, well, I break dance.
Right.
And everybody in the dance play didn't know that I break dance.
Yeah, they're like, here we go.
So they
that's afforded you a lot of
absolutely.
afforded you a lot of things coming up there.
You pull that one out.
God bless the hip hop world in 1992, man.
For real.
Yeah.
So they put on Lady Madonna. I said, just put on Lady Madonna. That's kind of funky. Yeah. And I started popping and I started doing all this crazy stuff. And they got all excited and they're like, you could be like one of our clowns. They're directing me. And then I come back and I'm doing a gig for Gillespie Ballet, which is out in Long Island.
Yeah.
Still like not that much money. Yeah. Like I came back and had to do this thing, had to ask for an advance of the $500 they were paying me to do this outside thing. I'm in the middle of a breakup. It was horrible.
Oh, jeez.
I had to get an advance to pay my utilities. And they were very sweet about it. And Gillespie, Kristen McGrew is still doing her thing, in her own company. She's great. Gave me that, and I gave her a thank you card. Just really sweet. So I came back, I did that, but then Cirque was talking about me coming up to train as a clown, and everything got foggy, and then it just never happened. So I started taking this class with Mark Dendy, and he was choreographing the Pirate Queen. So the Pirate Queen, which I'm actually related to Granuel O'Malley, from one of the sides of my Irish. So she was a pirate off the coast of Galway, and Riverdance was so huge at the time. This was their first like musical.
Oh, okay, I see.
And Mark would do the audition combo in his class. So me and my best friend would take his class all the time. We cut to auditioning, and I got a song, and I'm maybe looking into theater now. And I'm also like, I need to work.
Right.
And these concert company shit happens from January to April, and then if you don't get in a full-time company, you're just gigging.
Right.
And
Just like you're doing. Like,
yeah, exactly. You're not making any money. So they would have like musical theater auditions. I mean, they just went all year, and you could go 2-3 a week, and it really helped to just also get that audition muscle going.
Of course.
But
because you got to keep going. You got to be out there.
And it's a different skill. They don't teach it in college.
No.
How do you audition? And even if you have a mock audition, I'm not going to say it doesn't help.
Right.
But understanding how to control your adrenaline when you have to just sing in front of 3 people on a fucking piano in a studio, and they're just like, and they've seen 100 people that day, 200 people.
Yeah.
To just really
that
be
sounds
like,
just harrowing experience. I mean, and you said Circus is like 8 hours, but what's your usual rehearsal for? I'm sorry, what
for auditions?
Yeah,
for musical
auditions,
theater,
like,
maybe like 3-4 hours.
Yeah,
but
wow.
you're not
That's
auditioning
still
the
a
whole
lot.
time. They're just
Right.
bringing in groups, so you'll come in your own group.
Right.
You'll do the first combination.
Where do you find these auditions then? Where does it?
ActorsEquity.org.
Okay, so are you part of a union or anything?
I'm still Equity.
Okay.
But they mostly represent performers, and now
Right.
and when I switched to being a choreographer and then further on to director writer now, I didn't need it anymore, so I didn't want to pay the dues.
Right.
Because
they were look, I don't need you guys anymore.
And they even said it to me. They were even like, I was on the phone with them, I remember years ago, and I was like, so I'm like choreographing a lot now. Do you guys protect me, or do you? And they were like, oh no, not really.
Yeah.
So I put my account on a freeze, and it's probably gone.
But so when you're choreographing your own stuff, you're moving away obviously from like working with other people. Now you're kind of like running the show.
That was the I always wanted to be creative, and I always had the ideas of putting on my own stuff. So much of my dance career was building enough credit that someone would take me, that then I could switch to choreography and have my own thing. I used to want like an all-male ballet company to like metal and rock and roll and just call it badass ballet.
Right.
You know, and
still could go on. That could happen, right? That sounds great. What are you talking about? It's fantastic.
When I started it though, it was interesting though, because what happens is that everyone knows you as a dancer.
Yeah.
So you have to go through these first year or two of just rebranding yourself.
Right. And that's what you've been doing.
Yeah. And now even into this, the next phase, I know the process, so I feel I can go like, hey, it's going to be okay. Like,
but now you're moving into your own, like you said, like you're moving into your own thing now. So now you're moving into writing and directing in your own world here, like doing the mockumentary. So let's talk about that.
Sure.
Because that's something that's like
now.
That's what's happening now. Because people are like, okay, like you've been through all this training, you've heard, you know the ups and downs, you know the ins and outs of the entire thing.
Yeah.
And now you're going like, look, I'm going to start doing my own thing. 39 years old, ready to break out on your own. And it's like, what projects have you already worked on as a choreographer in charge? Like what's going on?
What was it? The first thing I did. I mean, I had a couple of pieces at some dance studios that wanted like choreography. So me and my ex-girlfriend did this piece called How Strong, and it was a grand pas, which you would see at the end of like Nutcracker, but it was to Otis Redding and Sam and Dave. So I was really trying to push the rock.
Yeah, you're really bringing in soul music, you're bringing in rock and roll, you're bringing in other elements.
Yeah, so that's kind of when it started, and I've been working for Chase Brock, who's a Broadway choreographer now in his company, but I was getting to that point where I was like, I'm just done being somebody else's instrument.
Right.
Because every time something would be good or bad that you're dancing, especially if it was bad, you would just be like, it's not my show. I'm here to dance. When it's my show, I get to do what I want.
And anybody who's working for under someone else's thumb for a while is like, it's about time that I got to branch out.
Oh, totally.
I gotta have the confidence for that. I gotta have the skill set for that. So then you had to dive into your toolbox there and start writing.
Yeah, well, the first one was the show.
You have the dance side of things. You got that side.
Yeah, the first show that I did was What Guys Do. It was an off-Broadway show at the
that you wrote,
Street Theater.
That you choreographed?
We wrote and outlined. So it was my dad and we came up with the concept, and he said, what we can do is like a late-night show with a live rock band.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was my brother's band called Mount Olympus, which was like stoner rock, little metalish.
Yeah, kind of Caius, kind of like Caius, like Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And
Josh Home.
we did 2 shows. Then you get into the logistics of it. So it was kind of like all my old work mixed with new work, and it was young male, juvenile, themes, and then the second act was adult themes.
But you're writing these themes.
I wrote the themes.
You're outlining these themes.
Yeah.
What are these themes? So it's like young man. So basically, through the art of choreography, you're showing these different stages of growing up as a man.
Yeah, bully, cheating on 2 girls, them finding out. It was a lot of humor as well.
And what's this called again?
It's called What Guys Do.
What Guys Do.
It is on the very end of the YouTube page because that was 2010. So,
okay, all right. So you can see a little bit of this. Okay, so this is 2010.
I think you can see all the excerpts too. I posted it for somebody I met on set.
And we'll put up a link to that. We'll put up the link to the YouTube page, so whatever you want to put on. So
we did that, and then the Bleecker Street Theater. I didn't have any money to pay anybody.
Sure.
We met the door deal. Producers,
the good old pay to play. I know it well from all the Chat and War parties. I know.
Oh yeah,
I know all that well.
That's right. I totally forgot.
Yeah, pay to play. We threw those. We had 6 huge parties basically over the period between 2010 and I think 2013 or something like that. There was always like a seasonal party or some screening or something like that, or whatever we were doing. We always combine that effort. But the pay to play, ladies and gentlemen. That is make your door, and then anything you get past the door, then maybe.
So with the theater, because the people who owned the theater at the time used to also promote rock shows.
Okay.
So they gave me a 10 o'clock spot on Friday night and Saturday night just for one weekend.
Yeah.
We had about 10 dancers, rock band.
Yeah.
Wow. 90-person black box in the basement.
Love it.
I think I can't remember the place it's called.
Love
now,
that stuff.
It's like counterculture or something. And they said, well, we'll make a deal with you. We first half of the door, first 500 goes to the theater.
Okay, right.
Second goes to you for the night. And then anything after that was split down the middle. So we sold it out both times. But
nice.
You have that many people.
How'd you promote it? Just for yourself?
We used my friend Brian. Well, actually, no, we kind of did it. I mean, we had some people work for Live Nation who said they would help us, but then it didn't really happen. So then we
did Time Out magazine jump in, or like did you?
We looked into it, but
it's tougher than you think. It's
Yeah, because if
you're coming from the outside of New York City, if you're not dialed in.
Yeah, and it wasn't a long enough run. There was no guaranteed producing money. Because they asked me after we did it, like, can you guys come back at the end of the month? And I'm like, I have 10 dancers who now I'm going to need to pay. Because they did really put and they were wonderful.
Yeah.
I have to pay the band.
Yeah.
The only person we ended up paying like $100 to was the lighting board guy, because the lighting designer was like, oh, I'm not actually lighting the show. And this was like a week before. So I said, I'll give this guy Bill, I was like, I'll give you $100. Like,
oh, yeah.
And then I made back half my money. The 2 other producers made back half their money, and that was pretty much like, we're done.
It's so hard to organize your own thing here. I mean, it's almost like we should go to like a second tier city or something where it's like a lot cheaper to actually have the rent for the place. You could find a lot of great talent that's being unused.
Yeah, and we did the same concept. So cut to a couple years later, and I'm trying to get the choreography going. Then I'm teaching, and then I'm just starting to get to the point where, is teaching going to be the rest of my fucking life? Like, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to get a master's. I don't want to teach in a college full time.
Right.
And so I did Slam Bam Dance at the Knitting Factory here twice. And that was a showcase where we'd have 3 choreographers.
I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the choreographers would pick 2 songs from each band and do them live on stage. And it was a way to get away from the avant-garde stuff I saw in Bushwick and be like, there's great dancers. Why isn't Brooklyn seeing this?
It's so true. I mean, it's like, but again, if you're not involved with any of these kind of companies, major companies that are advertising for you, or like you said, Live Nation, if they're not promoting anything like this, then you're fighting against this whole battle of like, how do I advertise for this? How do I
5-6 year process with the same show?
Yeah.
And so first one went really well. We had about 122 people come out to it, and it was exactly what I wanted. So I thought I had something. 6 months later, we do the next one. 60 people show up.
Right.
And we're still dealing with the door deal at Knitting Factory.
Right.
I'm deflated. Nobody cares.
And this is like the new Knitting Factory. This is the Metropolitan. This is not the
Canal Street one. Yeah. And that's when I was like, I don't want to do theater anymore. I don't want to do live shit anymore. I mean, the next day,
Well, it's heartbreaking, really. I mean,
it was like, and then you go, what's wrong? What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Did we not advertise?
A changing neighborhood, brother. That's the crazy thing. It's like Williamsburg at the time. I mean, what year did you do the first?
It's 2015.
Right, and see, that was like kind of the tipping point for Williamsburg, or even Bushwick. I don't even know what's going on because I always thought Bushwick was like a carbon copy of Williamsburg in 2003.
And what was the question? Is like also like you keep asking yourself as you're getting older. Is like, do I want to be involved in that scene?
Well, that's the thing.
Was I just doing it because it was cool and I'm supposed to go see this shit?
But there was way more. There were people actually. This was a destination spot. It still is. Like Williamsburg still. I mean, now past COVID, I don't even know what people are looking for
destination
anymore.
For COVID.
Yeah, I'm saying no. It's like, I mean, what are they doing here? I mean, but even in 2015, people were coming out here because they were like, oh, Williamsburg is where the arts are.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And then, I mean, I can count on two hands.
Yeah.
How many artists I know? You're one of them.
Yeah.
Who are still living here.
Oh yeah.
Who are still doing anything? And this is even pre-COVID.
Oh, totally.
I mean, there are so many different. I could see the visual artists, like the painters.
Yeah.
They still have the open studios in Bushwick. They have street art in Bushwick. So that's fine. Rock and roll clubs. I mean, there's no performance places really. I mean,
it's
now
Death by Audio has been gone for
Death by Audio is out of.
I did a performance in 2014 at the Muse, which was an acrobatic. They asked me if I wanted to do a half an hour.
But you got House of Yes, I guess, it's still there.
I did because that's still Bushwicky.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's still like
Bushwicky. We should put that in the in the vocab section of it.
But yeah, no, I feel you. And so after that, I spent about a year. And I want to be very clear with people. I hear podcasts all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Mark Maron, and suddenly you have these guys that are successful and they make it sound like, oh, we did a couple of things and now I'm on TV.
Right.
And you're like, no, I always thought to myself, if I ever did a podcast, I want to really be like, that year was horrible.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what I was going to do.
You're talking about like 2016.
Right after. End of 2015 into 2016.
Yeah.
I didn't was I going to do production? And then my brother's crew, and they're like, well, just PA. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not creative and just this. And it was like really, it was.
We just had another PA on. We talked all about the film and TV world.
Oh, yeah.
And we lamented drinking about it. Yeah.
And I found out very quickly because I worked the next year, I needed some money. So a friend of mine hooked me up with a PA gig on Elementary.
I mean, it's great. No, I mean, I'm a PA.
Oh, they explained it right away.
Tried and true,
They were like, maybe you'll bump up to being an assistant director, but...
Which you don't want to be. But
right.
If you're stressed out enough in your life, you don't
Shout out to Booth, who is a great assistant director, first AD on that. And
Stephen Douglas was just here. Remember old Steve? He was just here the other day, too.
Oh, I love Steve.
And he's an AD, and that's more drinking on that point.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily... hop to writing and directing.
No,
and all the advice I got was they were like, put a documentary in Sundance, do an indie movie, and finally when all this advice coming in, I went, oh, I get it. None of you motherfuckers know.
No, because they're not doing it. There's no way to do it. I mean, a lot of these guys, they've already had they got dial-in connections to these things.
Yeah.
So all you gotta do is just build something already up, and then just sort of be like, hey, favor for favor. I mean,
it brought me right back to doing those shows, and what I got out of was like sitting there and I'm watching TV one night, and I can't remember what I was watching, and I'm so into this show.
Yeah.
It was some Netflix thing, and I was like, I love this. I want to create narrative. I want to create all this stuff in my head.
Yeah.
And so I said, I want to be a director, and I got an opportunity from a friend of mine. He was shooting a music video. We both taught at the same place. He taught voice, and I was teaching dance, and he wanted me to choreograph it first. Then his director dropped out, and I said, why don't I do it? So they paid me $400.
There you go.
Still was great.
Hey, that's some money,
Lucian Smith, Burn That Paper.
Yeah.
And it was my first
It was called what? Burn That Paper?
Burn That Paper.
Okay.
It was kind of like pop Hamilton. It was an interesting. He has a good voice.
Okay.
But you
ended up directing this?
I did.
Oh, wow.
So we sat down with him, and since he was paying for it, once again, it's like a client. He was like, I kind of want this and I want that. And so first day, we're shooting on his roof up in Harlem. And he had a DP, a friend of his.
Yeah.
And he was basically like, it started shooting, and I didn't really know what to do. We didn't have a monitor.
Directing's kind of crazy, right? It's like,
we didn't have a monitor.
Yeah, if you don't know.
He's going like this. I'm trying to look in what he's doing. And I'm going, great. Keep lip syncing.
Oh, I learned the hard way and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, right.
But that's the only way to learn is the hard way.
It is. So we did 3 days Shooting was super fun.
Yeah.
Was exhausted. And then we edited with a friend of his, Jesse, who lives in the neighborhood here. And what was interesting was that and I had edited videos for my dance stuff.
Right. So you knew that you had that background.
And growing
already.
up, I had my dad who was doing corporate videos.
Right. So he knew, So he
had
knew
an idea,
And you still involve your father in your creative stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He's basically
that's another wealth
mentor.
of experience. Yeah, that's a wealth of experience, and you guys know each other, so it's like kind of you have shorthand.
Well, sometimes I need to say like, "Hey, Dad, it's not 84." I love you.
It's like I love you, pops, but it's not 1984. It's a little different time.
Still a lot of like similarities, for sure.
Of course.
So I directed that. Then right after that, my neighbor Noah wanted to do like a dance film, like arty thing, and we had been talking. And so he got funding from somebody he knew at YouTube, a friend of his. So they used this artist called Traces, and suddenly I'm the choreographer, but I wanted also to be the co-director.
Right.
Because I wanted the credit. And he was like, I've never had anybody be the co-director. I'll make you the first AD. I didn't know what that meant.
Oh, God, yeah. No.
But he didn't make me actually do the job. I didn't see the job until...
Because the AD is the person everybody after the shoot doesn't want to drink with. Because he's up everybody's ass. Like it's like, okay, we're late. We got to keep moving. It's like
I was basically turned into the choreographer because in these sorts of gigs, what I learned was like, unless you have actual choreography, you are like Cirque. You're improv prompting because there's no audio. Yeah. So I kind of did some of that with him. He did a lot of that, but then also I'm running back and forth and getting the dancers. We were out in it's a fort, Civil War fort by LaGuardia. Yeah. And it was early December. So that happened right after, and it was cold, but, got a little pay, did the thing, everyone was happy, met some people. Then I did a music video for my brother. So then him and I came up with the concept.
For Mount Olympus?
Space Merchants.
Oh, Space Merchants, okay.
And I wrote the whole thing out after that, And also you've been doing these outlines. Like I applied for a grant years ago at Lincoln Center, and you had to explain... the 3 plays or dance things you wanted to put on there. So you still had to do the research. You still had to write the shit out.
No, of course, right.
But which I didn't know was helping me, lead to writing.
Little did you know, like, all these are Right. These skills you pick up along the way will end up being useful.
Joel, is it Joel Silverstein? What's Joel's?
Wait. Silverstein, right? Like from what? Your Beautiful New York?
Yeah.
Old Joel?
Yeah. He worked with me.
I love that motherfucker. He's great. Yeah.
And he asked me.
I was a film reviewer for his.
Well, we talked years ago where he was like, "Can you give me a dance editorial or something along those lines?" And I never did.
He's still running that magazine. I gotta hit him up.
He
I
ended
gotta
up
find out
working,
what's
I think,
going
for
on.
American Express last time we talked.
Okay, so he's. I don't know if he's had his own personal project going on.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still in the neighborhood or not.
I don't know where anybody is. Everybody left. COVID's destroyed everyone. Everyone's bounced.
Your local bar, I'm going to tell you, that has been a someone asked me, how do you do business? And I said, like Hemingway.
Yeah, well, at the bar. That's how anybody, but that's like that's the New York way, though. That's the one thing that everybody has in common, especially during the COVID thing, is that like you would meet people at the bar, just like you and I did at the famous Subway bar, which is where good dreams go to die. And we put their own Cyndi Lauper, and we get along there, and all of our art friends and all that stuff. But that whole crew I was running with, they all bounced. They're in Los Angeles, New Orleans, Austin.
Well, Mandy Jo ended up in Australia.
Mandy Jo, she ended up in Australia. I mean, so many people who were all part of like whatever our crazy project we were working on at the time. But that's how you meet people. Like, I went over to the MoMA to go check out the MoMA because they just opened up. And it was awesome. And I got to run around the MoMA and blah, blah, and no one was there. And I took a little walk over to Hell's Kitchen. And I'm like, okay, where's there a bar? Because these days now, they'll be like, hey, $3 beers. And you're like, that's a great deal. I'm going over there. Right. But because of the Como laws or whatever, you have to buy an entree. They don't even give you the cheap one. So it's $3 beer, but it's a $25 entree for a lunch special. You're like, this is absurd. I don't even want your $3. Yeah, like, what is this? But then, unbelievably enough, I walked by this one bar that I used to love, which Bourdain talked about all the time, was Blue Ruin.
Oh, yeah.
The scary, scary bar over there in Hell's Kitchen. Yeah. And I was still open. And they were serving kind of like, they'd sell you like a 50 cent or $1 hot dog. Right. That would be your food. That'd be your entree. You're like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Beer and a shot for $6. This is fantastic.
Right. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you, you can only do that. Somebody asked me like, well, okay, you're doing your thing, and it's a lot of emailing, a lot of trying to talk to people, and they're like, why don't you move to a suburb or something? You're like,
you could, maybe.
I'm like, I gained most of my connections because the hanging out in New York, what am I going to meet these people in Westchester somewhere?
Well, you guys can go hang out at the Applebee's?
Right.
You go check out the local.
You don't run into other people.
Meet up at Chipotle, right? Just like, hey, I like rice bowls too.
It's great. There's a lot of film, people. I just met a guy who's a color corrector. Does that professionally, and
But that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. So at Blue Ruin, I go out there. I'm sitting there in the next 2 hours. I run into a political advisor who worked for several different campaigns. Right, he's cool. Then I run into a guy who's a DP on some commercial work. He's over there. Get this guy's number. And now more than ever, then there's another guy who's like, oh, you should enter this podcast competition. He was like a steel worker.
Yeah.
He loved talk radio, and he's like, our Heart Radio's got this advertising for different podcasts that are trying to come up.
Yeah.
And I walk away from this moment going, this is what I'm talking about. This
exactly.
And like people who say, all right, why don't you get on New York? New York's dead, what have you. It's like, you can't get this kind of thing. Like anywhere else. I mean, you need to have that kind of proximity, that walking proximity that we have.
And it changes in the blink of an eye.
It does.
And so, so after those music videos, I met with a DP friend of mine.
Yeah.
And also, once you start switching and you understand, like, okay, how am I going to start making a business out of this? How am I going to start to do this? Suddenly you go, oh, well, my friend Matt, he's been a DP forever. Or my friend Jess, she was, her husband is the one who got me the gig. He was B camera on Elementary.
Right.
And suddenly you find all these new pockets because you're open to it.
Right.
And Matt said, we were sitting down and I showed him burn that paper and he was like, your editor didn't know color correct. And I'm like, oh, color, right.
You're like, what's that? What's that
exactly.
again? I still don't even know what it is, but you leave it to the hands of the professionals.
Yeah. And so he said he said, are you writing? And I said, not right now. And he said, actually, most of the people I know are like direct writers.
Well, that's what you do. You got to write your own ticket.
And so I started doing that with the mockumentary. I wrote a one-page treatment.
And this is what I wanted to really talk about, too, is this mockumentary. So it's called what? What do you got?
Academy.
The Academy. We're coming back to this. How many episodes did you write already on for this?
I wrote the pilot episode.
Okay.
And then there are
And what does that end up being like? How long is
that script turned out to be about 43 pages.
So we're talking... and did you film it?
Not the whole thing.
Okay, all right. So you definitely got your mockumentary. You get the pilot for it, and that's what you got. And that's what
that's your pilot script, yeah.
And then what you're looking at is having episodic of this.
Well, what happened was I started working on another thing with a friend of mine, and it was called Prism, and he had this idea. And we both love action. We both love anime.
Sure.
And he was like, I'm also not represented. I'm gay. And I really want to see it. So the whole concept was LGBTQ assassins who work for a company called Prism.
Okay.
We came up with the background of they were Spartan soldiers.
Right.
And then Paul with the letters. They went into hiding. They work for the church. The Reformation comes. And they've been at war for 500 years.
You're working on the writing with this?
I wrote the script, yeah.
So you're just going full on into the writing mode. So you're moving right out of the physical aspects of performance. And you're going into writing. Well, you're coming into my world now. What's going on?
I know, right? I know.
No, it's fine. Hey, the more the merrier.
Well, the idea was too. At first, I worked with a friend of mine on some of his scripts because I'm like, maybe I just need more stuff to correct.
Sure.
We worked on the script, and I love him. We still talk, and we're still going to do projects. But he was so slow in getting back to me that I just went, I can just do this myself.
See, that's another thing too. That you need that gumption. You got to have that fast gumption. Turn around a script quick. It doesn't have to be genius, but at least it has to be done.
And start writing your ideas down.
Yeah,
so
that too.
So that's when the mockumentary script got done because I had him working on it a little bit, and I was like, I know this. I'm just going to write it, and that's when I was borrowing some scripts and learning format because it's no different creatively.
Right.
But there's a format that you start to learn, and guess what, guys? The internet's amazing.
Yeah, you can learn a lot of stuff from that.
When you have a question of like, how do I do an
this?
Interior and exterior scene at the same time, and then I'm learning like, if you're writing a spec script,
we didn't have this back in the 90s.
Yeah, right.
We didn't have that.
And people are like, should you put directing tropes into like a spec script? And pretty much from this writing group on Facebook, the more successful guys are like, you're trying to sell the script, so be as descriptive as possible.
Yes.
Do anything you want. Once you sell it, it's probably going to get changed around 50, 60 times.
Yeah, I think there's some writer said that any kind of writing project that you sell to anybody else, it's sort of like giving your children away to the carnival that just came to town. And as they're leaving the town, you're like, well, see you later, kid.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you. I don't know what you're going to be after they're done with you, but The carnival's going to take over after this, so.
So we did the Prism thing, and so once we finished the script, my friend Jamie...
Is it a feature? Is it for a film? It's going to be a film, or
it
is
would
it
be
going to be
TV.
Just,
we
okay,
were,
so
like,
you're just...
Daredevil was out at the time,
Okay.
and we were all really digging the Marvel stuff. And
Yeah, right.
It was like a Netflix... I very much enjoy series. And
limited series, or like this kind of,
Could go as long, but I like being able to explore a character.
Of course, right.
You know what I mean?
And long-form television is obviously...
Yeah,
now,
I was very
that's the
inspired by
staple
that
now.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Patriot on Prime, which Stephen Conrad is his name, I think. It was basically Coen Brothers meets Spy.
Right.
And it was so out there.
Did you check out The Boys? You watched The Boys yet?
Oh, I love The Boys.
It's
yeah.
great. No, it's just, I mean, I was like hesitant, and then I watched like the first. I was like, all right, cool. It's kind of lagging. I didn't watch the second season, so maybe they're going to pick up. But
I haven't yet either. But watch it's probably still on Amazon.
Patriot. Yeah, I'll check it out. I watch it.
And it was a recommendation that Kevin Pollak did on his show. And there's one scene. So it's a guy who works for the CIA who hates it. His family is involved in the government and everything.
Yeah.
And he sings all the CIA secrets as a folk singer in Europe.
What?
That's how he gets his therapy.
So wait, so are you always going to have the performance element in all of your scripts that you've worked on so far? There's a performance element to it. There's always going to be is it like a music thing, or you're open to anything at this point?
I don't care what it is.
So you got Prism under your belt now. So now you know how to write.
Prism,
like
we did a preview. Yeah, so I did the full like first script, and Jamie and I talked about it. So it was like a co-writing process. I would do the actual writing.
Anything get shot on that?
We did, yeah. We had.
You did?
Yeah, I just re-edited the. So what happened was my friend Matt we were gonna do a whole pilot.
Yeah.
We were gonna do 3 days. We had dancers who were stunt people.
Wow. Perfect.
We reached, for that. Exactly. We had them rehearse a lot of the fight scenes, of course. And what happened was the first day of the shoot, my DP does not show up.
See, there you go. So right there, just you want to kill yourself. Like, I want to kill myself right now because if your DP doesn't show, it's just that's it.
So by about noon, I let everybody go, and I won't say his full name, but I get a call. Guy. Yeah, I get a phone call, and it was like, "Hey, man, I just got out of jail."
Okay, all right, jail, all right, okay, that's...
And he got drunk, it was a drunk tank thing.
All right, so...
But it was a drunk tank thing.
DPs do drink, but I mean, like the day before, a shoot, it's like... You should be in bed praying or something, like, you know.
So we hopped on it, and we did a preview, and Jamie Torres...
What do you mean by a preview? What is this?
We did it as a trailer. So I
so you're
all
shooting...
the shots.
Who's shooting? Yeah. You have the cameras then, so
we got one of the performers, Max Reed. He had, what was it? So we had a Nikon 5500, but then he had, what was the other one?
The Canons?
Canon.
Yeah. That's all right. It's a Canon.
He had a Canon.
Yeah.
And he had a little bit of experience with it. So we came and we shot a trailer.
Okay. Wow.
But I don't think, in my mind, I had put the trailer together to explain the backstory as much as I wanted. It was kind of more to explain the first episode. Then we edited it. Came out okay. Yeah. And then after now going through Premiere Pro so much and now really knowing...
It's cool you're up in that, though.
COVID.
Yeah.
I had a dance school that wanted to do... We did
still doing Final Cut 10. I'm still fucking...
Oh, yeah. But we did a remote show in May with these kids. And so I had to teach all the other teachers, like, okay, here are the 3 shots that we need to get them to do on their phones.
Yeah.
Then your B-roll, we're just going to call it, is your opening, your ending. And that's them going in the door or whatever, you know? And so I edited 16 videos.
Wow.
And that'll get you to... And they're dance-related videos, so...
Are these available for people to see too, like on YouTube?
I think on channel? Vimeo. Oh, actually, Vimeo. No. On mine, there's 1 or 2, and on my Vimeo channel, there's a couple.
Cool.
Music rights shit, you know. But yeah, so we did that all remotely, and then I learned, you know, you're playing with all.
So you're basically just lazy. You're just a lazy guy, basically. That's what I've learned from the ladies and gentlemen. You just learn that Dave's a real lazy guy in his whole life.
Well,
he hasn't really done anything really. Like he's just
that goes back to that same
flash
thing.
in the pan. Really is what it is.
Where you heal to this and you think that I'm so busy, but there are definitely times, and people, if you move to New York, you know there are definitely months where you're like, what the fuck is going on?
No. There's definitely that. But I mean, I was being facetious because you're doing all these different projects, and then you find like one area where you know, like, okay, well, I don't know that, so then you just throw yourself into that area and you say, okay, now I know that. Now I know.
I got frustrated because I hated having to constantly, also with just my own videos, and you're not going to pay a professional editor, which is what I would want to do.
If you learn how to do it,
if I bought a new computer in November,
to get
Premiere Pro, so that on these little projects, I like the mockumentary. So that came about during the last summer, and I was like, well, fuck it. I can't get everybody together to do this. But I have Emily who played a part, my fiance, and then I had 2 other friends, dance friends, who would work with me. And I said, I just rewrote little excerpts from the script and then gave it to them. And then we would go in, and it basically is what I knew comedically. So we would improv through different things that I thought were funny.
And so the Academy, describe the Academy for me.
So basically, it is a mockumentary about a professional ballet school in New York City.
Which you know a lot about, obviously. So,
well, people don't know that other end where if you're 19 and 20, you're technically an adult. And the shit I had one jazz teacher literally, say, well, have you fucked lately?
Oh my God. You're talking to other adults, so it's like it can get pretty racy.
Kids. Yeah, it's not kids. That's what people, and then people don't know that pre-professional world,
right?
And what they would say to you, And
I haven't really seen any of this done. I haven't seen anybody take that angle.
Well, right now there's a guy who I met out, and we knew each other from Lady J's. That it's become. I always like my little local, and
of course,
it turned out he was doing agent work for lecturers, but also had pitched stuff over the years and knew people. And then, so he got the script to a comedy manager. He wanted to punch up the script and loves the excerpts, but they're low budget.
Yeah.
It was very much like me just trying to get something out there.
Well, that's good too, but at least you have a format. What I'm saying is at least you have a format that you can work off of.
Well, and the thing that came out of it, which was really interesting, was he didn't like the Prism preview, which I did re-edit.
Okay, right.
He said it just doesn't. He said the story is cool, but I'm not getting that from the preview. And I went, okay. And also that was a co-writing thing, and I love Jamie, but sometimes when you're working with someone else, it's just like I have a feature script that I am still hashing out.
Really? Oh wow,
yeah.
Cool.
It's about an older dance teacher who has a chip in his head that short circuits, and suddenly everything he's seen from UFC to whatever he can fight. And then all these other dancers are basically...
See, this is fantastic stuff, right? See? And it's all based in your background, but it's also something that only you could write.
And it helps, too. I also wrote another pilot script. It would have been like a limited series, but it was based off Dan Carlin's episode, what were they called? Like Prophets of Doom. And it's during the Reformation, which is where I got all those other ideas.
Right.
And it was the Siege of Munster, where this what became Baptist... They were an extreme section. They took over, and it is just the most wildest story. Polytheism, everybody, when the world just breaks the fucking mold and everyone can read the Bible and they're all hearing
suddenly
God.
Gutenberg Bible's out.
Oh my God. And it's, and so I wrote one of those things and still working with that script, but those were like the 3 genres that I really like, which is like comedy, action, and there is one more. The comedy, action, and historical drama.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, and I'm like, I'm a history buff. I love, because it's so real when you get someone who can tell the story, and you're like, no, these people believe this shit.
How are you learning how to do your screenplays? You just winging it? You're learning things on the
first time.
The Facebook group. You said there's a group that was like.
There's a Facebook group. It's got like 60,000 members, but
wow.
What I kind of let go of was just write the damn story.
Right. And you're using Final Draft, obviously, right? You get Final Draft.
No, you sell text.
Oh, yeah. I think we talked about this, right?
And what's good is I can upload it to the cloud.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to write on my computer, I don't want to take it out, I can actually sit at a bar somewhere and write on my phone.
See, and that's something that's fantastic. My only beef with Celtic is that it can't transfer over to Final Draft. They won't. They don't have that. They won't let it. So if you wanted to send that script to me and then I have a Final Draft program,
I have to send it. I have to export it to the computer. Yeah. Then send it as a PDF to you.
So I can get PDFs from the Celtics thing, but then the Final Draft, I got a cracked version of Final Draft that I had one of my guys just pirate it for me. Yeah. So that's what I'm working with. But
Well, Celtics is like $20 for your computer.
Yeah, I used to use it in the initial, but I started getting frustrated because I kept wanting to Final Draft. So I'm going to dump that into there, and it just comes up Well,
I got frustrated because the treatment of the action things is still going really well, but it's my first feature. And I'm just writing it as a story, as a treatment. That's great. And I know, though, I have to go back and put it into script form, which is going to take even longer. So right now, with this sort of comedy thing out there, and hopefully, but I know the business. I know this is one connection to another connection. Right. It may work out, it may not, and just be ready for that. And it's going to be a multitude of you building networks. And if you're older, I think you can understand that. So then, like I told you, the other thing is to take DTG Productions and do corporate video.
Right.
Do commercial, whatever you want to hire me for, because I can direct, write, hire the crew.
Yeah, once you get the whole thing going, then you get the thing. And so that's where you foresee if your production company's going that way.
That's and so then it'll take me away from the side job of still teaching dance like 3 days a week, and also, I hate to say it, I make more money.
What's that? Doing that? What? Doing the production?
Doing the corporate stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes longer.
That's how you do the money, man. That's everybody.
It takes longer to get one project to go.
Right.
But then, even for a small project, if you're making 15, 20 grand, keep teaching.
Yeah, sure.
As long as it's convenient. But that was definitely a way that I see in the future, because I know getting on TV or having a movie made, it's going to take as long as it takes. And
because of the COVID, I got friends who are in the industry who are like out in LA, and they're saying there's a backup because of the COVID. So they had all these things. Even if you get into the thing, you got to have a streamlined.
Oh yeah.
The only way is to go
option for 5 years.
Right. That's what I'm saying. No, but that's a lot of people are still trying to do that stuff. Yeah. A lot of these comedians and a lot of the other people are having it. So, like, what kind of adversity do you see, like, coming up for you, like, just as far as, like potholes or anything that you want to dodge? Like, what do you foresee in the next coming years about your projects?
I think it's going to be the same thing as I saw with, especially being a choreographer. Right. That it's where do you want to put your time and where do you want to put your connections and how do you build on that? And also knowing that not one thing makes or break you. Right. So, makes or breaks. But that... this thing with my friend who really wants to get the pitching of the mockumentary to someone, and he knows some producers. It's also for me to know this other comedy person, hopefully, but also to know that it may or may not work out. Right. There's a lot of promises we all make, and when you're younger, you fucking hate them for it. But as you get older, you're like, no, this is especially when you're in that entertainment world. Oh, God, it's like... Everyone promises you, everything. Sure. And so... That's what I see in general. And I think the best thing to do is I'm writing a new script, another pilot. Yeah. And it's based off of my fiance's time with a Disney tour. Oh, man. And I just went out there with it because she told me all the details and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, so you work for some sort of supernatural agency that fights demons or something. Okay, right. This thing, the tour before you got on it was in Japan. You took her story, right? Yeah, and then you're doing it for yourself. Hilarious. Yeah. And the minimal thought was, she's so nice, the redhead, beautiful woman, and she's so sweet that I'm like, what if you killed people like that? We were like, hi, you cheeky monkey, I'm going to rip your throat out. Yeah, right. And so we were taking that sort of thing, and then I came up with a concept that it was like, oh, okay, so they were kind of on tour parallel the Jim Henson puppet tour. And I said, what if the earthquake happens and Japanese demons, the Oni, possess the puppets, and you're on this tour parallel with whatever training you had or whatever it is, trying to stop them. But every time you have to go after someone, you have to do it in character of the show. Right, that's so perfect. It was like the merit badge. And you pitch it to her, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, this is." Oh, she was laughing. She reads everything. Yeah, and we share that. Like, I always wanted to read, and she's still auditioning, and work in that section is like self-submission. Yeah, she just did a commercial for a mask company. Yeah. And so she works really hard at that because theater's just pretty much dead. Yeah, I was about to say, like, so what? Yeah, what's the future of theater and performance? Like, since your performance been most of your life on stage. Yeah. What do you do now? I think theater in general, and I found this from switching over into the more production side of things, that they do not value that media as much as they should. It's unbelievable. Isn't this vital? Isn't this vital to like our experience that in-person experience from music? The first thing I thought of when I started reaching into this production world was like, oh, I'm going to go to Joffrey and offer them video because we wanted to create like who they are and what they are. And they have a rock ballet, like history. They were on the cover of Time magazine, all this wonderful stuff. But they were like, oh, we already have video people, like, but thank you. And then they came out with a video, and it was like every other dance video. They're in an abandoned building, and we're doing beautiful stuff. And it's not like it's badly shot, but I was like, where are you infusing who you are? Right. And so all the places, connections I had, just really didn't want to pay for it. American Ballet Theater, one of the biggest dance companies in the world. Yeah. I remember looking at their website, and under video, and this is 3-4 years ago at least, they had a recital video. It's one camera,
right,
and a stage, and I'm like, you are.
But what about the future of the theater? Where do you see it coming? Where do you see it
I think
going?
it's got to go interactive in that way. I think it's, at least for now, because I think you have to somehow offer, I don't know, maybe virtual.
Yeah.
Because the Oculus is pretty amazing. Something where you can still have this experience of being there with not being there.
Right.
And I think that they have to start working more with the filmmakers and with people like that right now until they can actually have their.
Because what a glorious day that's going to be when you can pack a theater again, right?
Right. Oh, I agree. Yeah, and it's one of those things that you know, it's always where it's like the music scene when you had the internet come in.
Right.
I think some of the theater parts are so dug in as to how they do things.
Right.
That it takes them a very long time to get going in a different direction if that market's no longer there.
Right.
And I would love to see them, and it wouldn't even cost as much as putting on a Broadway show.
Right.
So you're like, why don't you try it? Why don't you work with it? If you have a new show coming out, have 3 cameras. Be on stage with them. Try to make it, even if it looks like a television thing, but it's still live and something. Like, you know, if you're filming live and you're trying to do it all in one shot, maybe hide someone on stage, but you're getting close
But
up.
you still could have that.
Still feel it. Yeah, totally. So
I'm sure you miss being in a live performance too. I mean, just or even seeing these kind of performances, right? I mean, being a person on the other side, I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, personally, I did a Nutcracker last year, 38, 39.
Right.
And I was like, ow.
I'm talking about being as the viewer, right?
Oh, as a viewer, like, yeah. I mean, I think the Disney thing that they did of Hamilton was interesting. But still, same thing. How much can you integrate this? There's one ballet that I absolutely loved, and it was Maurice Béjart, and it was called The Ballet for Life. It came out in like 96, and they had some like tracking cameras and this and that, and it's all to Queen music. It was a dedication to Freddie Mercury, and concept ballet is beautiful, abstract, but it was about Freddie Mercury. You could feel these people even acting like him, even you know, and you felt the energy with the lights. It was a ballet and a concert, and all of it just really read. And I think something like that needs to happen now, because what else are you going to do? You know, I mean, fine, go out and do what James Gordon's doing, do a musical in the street.
Do something, right?
I watch that, and I love it, and I'm really reluctant after so many years in live theater and dance to even watch. It almost doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
That was the other interesting thing, is I was moving on, and my dad would be like, well, why don't you go see more dance? And I'm like, I've seen enough.
Right. I've been through this already. I've been down this road before.
Is it Butoh in fucking Bushwick? Is it, you know, just the regular you know, it was very few and far in between that I was seeing something that Warhorse inspired me. Yeah. I really like that. I thought Sleep No More, still one of my top.
Sleep No More is one of the best, you know, interactive kind of things there are.
It was like, really, I was like, I didn't get any of that, and that was awesome.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So it's interesting. I think also live theater, that's why I stopped, because I was like, it's just such a limited market. And not to shit on anybody who's trying to do it. I totally like,
because I miss the immersive experience of theater. You know, what I mean? Like just being on the other side, not as a performer, but just as a viewer. Yeah. Just to have that, to be able to go out and have that kind of thing. Like, you know, there's having like the black box theaters or whatever. I mean, the Brick's still here. You know, there's plenty of others, but a lot of those like independent companies like Aztec Economy and a lot of those guys who were doing crazy stuff back in the neighborhood, that's gone, right? So
I know, it's a shame. And I think that is something that has been changing in New York over the past 30, 40 years. I mean, God, like just slowly.
But we're still here.
I know.
We're still here.
Well, and also people be like, oh, didn't you move to LA? And I'm like, I've never been to LA, and I don't really want to go there.
Yeah, good Mexican food.
Yeah. I
like Pacific Ocean.
I like the residential feel of New York. Yeah. And it brought me back when you came in and you congratulated me working with Jim Jarmusch on The Dead Don't Die. And it was such a weird thing as we talk about New York connections, right? His producer, who's been longtime friends with my brother, they like, we need someone to do the zombie stuff. And it's not a choreographer, but does anyone know a choreographer? And Carter Logan, love you, buddy, was like, why don't we just call Dave? Like, Jim knew my brother. Right. And it was and they invited me in, and basically I just did a bunch of videos for them. I never had to be on set. Yeah. But then I have this credit, and suddenly you're sitting in the movie, and you're like...
That's so awesome.
Damn.
Only in New York City.
Well, that was what you loved about it. And Jim is exactly like, he's just a cool, I mean, God, he's just like a rocker that you would meet in Williamsburg or anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, and he's really fun to talk to. And, you know, I ran into him on Metro North coming back from, and I was like, hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Gagino.
He's like, yeah.
And he said, man, we couldn't have done that zombie shit without you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, and he's very generous, very cool.
Yeah.
And how do you rate that experience? Like,
You're not going to get that in the burbs.
Yeah, and like you said, like Steve or whoever else who's really worked crew, that was the same thing. I was like, I can make just as much money teaching on the side, and not drive myself insane with 13-hour days,
or even worse, right? Even worse, yeah.
And so
the world will go on.
Yeah, and just keep being creative.
That's it.
Bob Sands, who's on this Facebook page thing that I look at, a fairly successful screenwriter. And someone said, "How do you get your screenplay done?" He said, "Write a page a day."
It's
not that hard. Script form, writing a page, you could do that in an hour, but it's that, like anything else, right? The consistency of getting into it so that you don't leave it and then suddenly it's taking you 7 or 8 months to write, 120 pages.
Yeah, staying in the process.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's why I like the TV pilots too, because you can kind of like do 40, 50 pages and then you're like, and cliffhanger. And they're like, well, what's the show Bible? And you can kind of like tell it.
Work that out. Yeah.
I've never had to write one out yet.
Yeah.
But it's your pitch, and it's like, who knows? Like maybe they're going to.
But it's the consistency of like nailing it every day. That's
you're selling an idea, man. Yeah. And so you're trying to get. I think the next thing for the mockumentary, if things start going that way, is I wrote a preview, and it's better. Now I've had that script for like 3 years and redone it a couple of times. That I think. From Prism and having that experience of a trailer and having that experience of like, oh, I really need to focus on the storytelling, that'll be even better now. Because now I know much more ins and outs. But what does that happen? It happens with time. And you have to want to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it, fuck it. Go be a lawyer.
That's it for this week. This is KTCR, the one and only Kill the Cat Radio. Be safe and happy holidays to everybody. We'll see you on New Year's Day. Bring it on, 2021. We're ready. And we're here. And we're not going anywhere.